does affect, it affects a lot of people, and there's some updates on this road closing project that I've been talking about. David Amaletti, who is a Channel 4 reporter, is apparently going to interview some of my neighbors today. And I just want to set this up for you guys in a different way so people understand why there's so much anger in my neck of the woods. So envision, Sue, you have a new home, right?
Well,
you just moved into, well, it's a new house that you moved
new
into.
to
It's
me.
not brand new.
Yes.
Right, no, I know.
Yeah.
Fred, you live in South County, and Ethan, where do you live exactly?
St.
I don't
Charles.
remember St. Charles. So envision a situation where you live in your house, and for years you drive down a particular road to get to work, to get to a Cardinals game, to get to a Blues game, to get to the stores, all those things, right? And then, to get to a main intersection from that road, it takes 5 minutes, okay? And it's like 1.5 miles, all right? And I mapped this out today. And then you find out that the road that you use every day, multiple times, like you don't use it just one time going in and out, you find out that that road is going to be closed for 270 days. And then you find out at the 270-day mark that the road isn't even close to being opened back up again, and it's going to probably be closed for months. And then at the same time, you're requesting, because this is taxpayer money, okay? This is ARPA money that came from you. If Elliot Davis were here, if he were still doing stuff on Fox, he'd say you paid for it. By the way, that's another topic. Like, Elliot, maybe we need to get him on, Fred, but he's out there like defending Tashara Jones. Sometimes he does stuff that I'm like, yeah, you go, Elliot Davis. And then I'm like, well, why are you defending Tashara? That's another topic. But anyway, there's taxpayer money that's on the line here, right? And there's a deadline for this particular project, and it has now been missed. It was supposed to be done on November 30th. But what was interesting is what happened yesterday, because the neighborhoods, and this is why David, I think, is doing a story. We're trying to encourage other local TV stations to do something on this as well. We have had no communication on this whatsoever. We've all had to ask for communication from Valley Park. And how would I sum up Valley Park and their administration in just like 2 words? Oh, yeah, they suck, okay? They're incompetent, and they've screwed this up from the beginning. So yesterday, they put a news release out that says Hillsborough Road and Merrimack Station Stormwater Improvement Project status update, December 3rd. As has been previously stated, the contract for the Hillsborough Road and Merrimack Station Road Stormwater Improvement Project, to give you a visual again, this is at 44 and 141, right near Paradise Valley and Krause Farms. It had an original timeline of 270 days on the calendar. The project began on March 5th, and the 270-day timeline expired on November 30th. That was Sunday. Hillsborough Road has been completely closed since March 5th, and it remains closed. That's false, because what they did at first was they took trees down and they marked some utilities, and that's all they did. And they had the road closed until some of us figured, hey, nothing has changed on the road. We're going to keep going through, which we did for several weeks. And then they threatened the cops are going to pull us over. And then they put barriers up, right? But it essentially has been closed since March 5th. So then they get into this blah, 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 blah. The city will proceed with assessing and collecting liquidated damages as stipulated in the contract. And I have the contracts. I've read all this, right? So I can bore you with the rest of what they said. But essentially, Nathan Schaaf, who's the city administrator at Valley Park, who I'm pretty clear sucks at his job, didn't say anything in this release. Nothing. He gives us no information, mainly because this project is going to go on and on and on. So here's what makes it interesting, and this is why I wanted to talk about it again today, because now the blame game is getting played. There's a company out in Pacific called West Contracting. They're the ones who are the general contractor for this project. When you have a general contractor, you have subcontractors, right? They're the ones that are leading the project. Now, I've never heard this before, and this is what makes it interesting. West Contracting, and their statement says, West Contracting and its subcontractors are working to complete the project despite unexpected delays from inaccurate utility locations, planned design changes, subsurface issues, and additional site clearing. The teams have worked tirelessly to evolve with field conditions and implement cost-effective solutions. We appreciate the community's patience and remain committed to minimizing disruptions while completing the project as quickly as possible. Well, West Contracting, I have some news for you. That's not acceptable, okay? That's not enough either. We need some answers. And I sent the West brothers, I think maybe it's a father and son, found their email address, and I sent them an email last night. And I said, this is not good enough, all right? We need answers. This is taxpayer money. And I said this, I said, you may appreciate our patience, But I guarantee you, we have none left. We have zero patience left for this. So it's one of those frustrating situations. I will say, and I just want to make this clear, I understand, and perhaps better than anyone, after my mental health experience from the summer, that there are far more important issues that people have in their lives. And this is a major inconvenience, but nobody's dying or nobody's, on their deathbed. So I put this into perspective, but the reason that I set up the topic the way that I did at the beginning is you should think to yourself, if you have a situation like that, and by the way, now you have the potential of emergency vehicles not being able to get to our homes. If someone has a heart attack or if there's a fire or something like that, it's going to take longer, or maybe they can't get there because there's an accident. We've often had situations on this road where a car goes off into a ditch, it closes the road for several hours. Well, the good news is we have another way to get into our house. We no longer have that. We don't have that. It takes my daughter an hour to get home from school. So, yes, it's inconveniences, and people have far bigger challenges, but it's reflective, I think, on the incompetence of government, okay? Because think about this. This is a microcosm of what happens with a lot of these programs. You can look at the rail program in California as an extreme example, right? You can look at Metrolink here as an extreme example, where a project is set up, you're told it's going to happen, there are bids that go out, the bids are submitted, and every time the price tag goes up. And then where's the money coming from? Like, one of the questions I have is the contractor getting paid by Valley Park. It's taxpayer money. This is ARPA money. They have to spend it by next year, but they have all through next year to spend it. So there's a lot of questions, and it's just an example of how government fails you. I mean, these are the basic things. You can sit and bitch about what Trump does. You can be pissed off about what, they do in Washington. But these are the things that affect people's lives and businesses, by the way, in very real ways. And it's just incompetence from the top to the bottom. And one of the things that I told Valley Park from the very beginning was just a little bit of communication. Just a little bit of communication could have gone a long, long way into calming the nerves and the temperature and the boiling point of thousands of people who have had enough. So my message to my friends at West Contracting and the city of Valley Park is to get your absolute blank together and do something and respond to your constituents and the taxpayers, because you're not doing enough. And unfortunately, I think that's what a lot of people have. And look, let's face it, I'm a guy that can blab about this on the radio, get the attention of other media. Most people, if they have a situation like this, they can't do that, right? They're stuck, and there's no accountability whatsoever. Valley Park doesn't care. I don't even live in Valley Park. They don't care about us. None of us do. We're in unincorporated St. Louis County. They don't give a crap. So it's extremely frustrating. It interferes with the aspects of all of our lives, and we've just about had it. So there you go. I got that off my chest this afternoon. I heard Brad Young on our sister station earlier, Fred. He was talking about the double tap strikes. We can talk about that with him coming up here at the bottom of the hour. That's still something that's getting, a fair amount of attention. And it's wild. You have people like Judge Napolitano going on Newsmax. Okay, I have the audio. I can play some of this later. He goes on Newsmax, and he says, this is definitely illegal. There were people that were hanging off that boat, so there's no doubt that this is illegal. Then you got other people saying, no, are you kidding me? This is clearly within, the rules of engagement, and we did nothing wrong. So the back and forth on this, and the players are interesting too, because, yesterday we talked about this. Rand Paul, it's clearly illegal. Napolitano, it's clearly illegal. Everybody else is like, no, it's really not. If you look at this and you look at the drone strikes that Obama did, but this is a different situation. Brad, I heard what he had to say, and he will describe and, sort of explain the minutia involved in that, and that's coming up. We have Asra Nomani. Nomani was always one of my favorites, coming up here to talk about some of the stuff that goes on with the Somalis and the National Guard shooter, and a lot of stuff that she's always all over. We'll have Sue's News on a Thursday. Tomorrow is the Reardon Roundtable Day. Jane Duker will be here. Jeff Rainford, former St. Louis County Police Chief, and former St. Louis County Councilman Tim Fitch will be here. We'll have Kilmeade on the show tomorrow as well. He's usually on Wednesday or Thursday, but he was booked up. Also, I must say this. very much looking forward to Dr. Marc Siegel this afternoon. I love him. He's a Fox News senior medical analyst. Fred, as you know, during COVID, he was there for us all the time. Yeah. He was outstanding. He did great work on, they call it Doctors Radio on Sirius XM. I would listen to him all the time because at that point, well, I paid for it, but they were even giving people who didn't have subscriptions,
I listen to it all the time, too.
But he has this book that's called The Miracles Among Us, How God's Grace Plays a Role in Healing. And Chris Smith, my friend who was shot in the head, got on Dr. Siegel's radar. And Dr. Siegel interviewed Chris and his mother because Chris kind of had this out-of-body experience when he came back in recovery from that, gunshot wound to his head. So I think it's Dr. Siegel's opinion that Chris is going to be a great addition to the sequel of this book. But he's going to tell us about the book. He also had some really interesting comments yesterday on Fox about social media and young kids and the dangers that these smartphones present. I'm terrified since I have a 10-year-old, close to being 11, so we'll ask him about that as well. So a lot to go, plus an audio cut of the day and more on a Thursday edition of The Mark Reardon Show.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
We've got some volume downtown on westbound 44, and it's mainly in front of the Arch grounds, but we also already have a jam on westbound 6440, Kings Highway out through Clayton Skinker. Now, there was an accident reported westbound 70 between Lindbergh and 270, so some volume there. And then southbound 270, mainly moderate volume. This is approaching Olive in pockets down through Doherty Ferry. A little bit of volume, too, headed for Gravois. 55, slowing headed down toward Bates in the construction zone. And westbound 64. Some volume there. Now, this is mostly Lake St. Louis Boulevard on out through the 70 split. 70 looks good out west. I'm Sue Thomas, and that's traffic on 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
Sponsored by Gloria Lou with your home sold guaranteed realty 314-325-6888.
Need to sell your home and you want the most money? The name to remember is Gloria Lou. Yes, Gloria Lou with your home sold guaranteed realty at 314-325-6888 and start packing.
Chicago Sticks, the Windy Cities Tour. Finally, two iconic bands together for the first time. August 24th, Hollywood Casino Amphitheater. Tickets on sale Friday at 10 a.m. at livenation.com. Don't miss Chicago and Sticks. All the hits. Your kind of tour.
Sue, does it look like Ethan is listening to me out there? Because we can give away tickets right now to Chicago and Sticks. We've been giving away a pair of tickets every day this week. Let's just do caller number 6 right now on the contest line. All right, he's going to answer your phone calls. 314-241-9797. The fine folks at Live Nation here in St. Louis provided us with the tickets. They go on sale tomorrow. You're a winner if you're caller number 6 on that contest line. This is a great time to talk about Generator Supercenter of St. Louis, because think about how cold it is right now. And if your power went out, what would you do if the power went out? If you don't have a generator, and this is going to be an opportunity for you to get a free estimate on a Generac home standby generator from Generator Supercenter, the nation's #1 Generac generator dealer. These are not portable generators. They're high quality. They'll kick in right when your home loses its power. You don't have to worry about calling Ameren or anything like that. And outside of extreme weather, whether it's a tornado or an ice storm or anything like that, we know that the power grid is faltering just as millions of Americans are becoming more dependent. And, you see what energy prices are becoming. So there's risks out there, certainly with the infrastructure. And when winter weather just around the corner, or here, what am I saying? Around the corner. It's here, right? You need some help for your home, and you can get it at Generator Supercenter of St. Louis. Call them today. They do have an outlet out in Chesterfield. 314-499-2020. Generator, Supercenter of St. Louis.com.
Surprise!
Surprise!
Surprise parties, they can be fun, right? Well, financial surprises, not so much, especially when you're retired. Like finding out you owe more in taxes than you thought you would, or having to go back to work to make ends meet. Maybe you think you'll be okay, but why not double check just to be sure? Call Marvin Mitchell at Compass Retirement Solutions and schedule a retirement double check. Marvin and his team have been helping families plan for retirement for more than 15 years. Call 314-373-1598 to schedule your retirement double check with Marvin Mitchell at Compass Retirement Solutions. That's 314-373-1598. Don't let a financial surprise derail your retirement dreams. Give Marvin and the team a call, 314-373-1598. Firm offers insurance services, investments, and services offered through Compass Retirement Group, a registered investment advisory in Missouri and in Illinois.
Scott, can you believe it's already been more than a decade since the Queen of Carpet sold flooring to St. Louis area contractors?
I know, but I don't have to be a king to offer contractors today's lowest prices.
Yes, contractors owe it to their customers and themselves to shop at Best Buy Flooring for the largest in-stock selection of carpet, carpet tile, sheet vinyl, laminate, hardwood, luxury vinyl plank, and luxury vinyl tile.
Plus 3 convenient locations, North County, South County, and Metro East.
Open 7 days a week.
Best flooring, best selection, Best Buy. Best Buy Flooring.
This is St. Louis Conservative. No filters, no fluff. Mark Reardon is back on the mic.
Brad Young is going to weigh in on some stuff at the bottom of the hour. 97.1 Talk chief legal analyst, partner with Harris, Young, and Kaiser. That's coming up here. I do have a couple things that I want to touch on at 4 o'clock. There was I like to focus every once in a while on some musical passings. You do this sometimes in Sue's News, but somebody passed away today, and it's a name that most people would not know, but I guarantee you know the music very well. So I'll get to that in the 4 o'clock hour as well. One thing on the topic of Brad, who's coming up, there was an interesting story today about AI and billable hours and how that affects lawyers. Have you ever gotten a bill from a lawyer with billable hours, Sue? Oh, that's a real fun thing to do. Phone call, 15 minutes, quarter hour. Wrote a note, 15 minutes, quarter hour, then you get your bill.
Wow.
But they're doing great work for us all, right? Brad, nothing against you. Asra Nomani is here, senior fellow at the Independent Women's Network, the founder of the Pearl Network. How are you, Asra? Welcome back. You're not an attorney, are you?
No.
Thank goodness, right?
I love them because you got to win in the court of law and win in the court of public opinion.
Well, they do come in handy sometime. There's no doubt about that. Look, I got a bunch of stuff to talk to you about, but let's kind of start with the National Guard shooter and what happened. And you think that there's a bit of a connection that might be emerging here that maybe some of the media is not onto. So tell me about that.
Yeah, I think this is really important because I think when you can understand how a tragedy happened, it's more effective trying to process the hurt too from it, because this has really devastated this long friendship that America has had with the soldiers and others that were in Afghanistan serving alongside the U.S. soldiers. So there's a lot of debate happening now, but I wanted to dive into it because I'm always curious about the path to radicalization. As many people might know, the man, Rahman Lakhanwal, who did the shooting, yelled Allahu Akbar right after actually the shooting. So how did that happen? And what I did is I dove into the community of his colleagues, the military and intelligence security forces that worked in Afghanistan that came with him, because it turned out that this was a punch to their gut also, many of them. And I spoke with the last standing Afghan general in Kabul right before the fall to the Taliban. And, he helped me get some understanding, where the brother of Rahmanullah reported to the FBI that when his wife tried to call him and find out where he was at in the days before the shooting, he told her, "I'm with the Tabligis." And so that might not mean a lot to listeners, but that was an alarm bell for me when I heard that he'd reported that, and it was for the wife, and then for the brother, who also had served in the Afghan forces with the U.S. military and CIA, and then unfortunately, a couple days later, they learned the news that Rahmanullah had done the shooting. So the Tabligis are a missionary group that comes out of this Deobandi school of thought that ironically is the ideology that inspires the Taliban. And so what I wrote about in Fox News Digital was the idea that, and the reporting that his family has been concerned about, that that he ended up going to a mosque in the Seattle area,
right,
up in where he was living, and got indoctrinated and ended up on these missionary trips through the Midwest and the Pacific Northwest, Indianapolis, Chicago, Phoenix. They're reported in social worker, not social worker, but caseworker reports about him just running off. And that's something that the Bleegies do. They say that they're not violent and that they're against violence and extremism and terrorism, but they become a conveyor belt, and they have been a conveyor belt to many terrorists that we've had through our U.S. History.
So
also.
is this then, Asra, to say that maybe you're concerned that this is more than just like a lone gunman type of situation in the way that he was radicalized? Is there more? Do you feel like there's more organization to it, or what's the concern?
Yeah, see, I've never bought that idea of the lone wolf, because while one man may pull a trigger, there's a poisonous ideology that he has absorbed that is a part of this network of extremist propaganda that has crossed borders for decades now through the into the U.S. and throughout our world. And that network needs to be held accountable also. But beyond that, what the FBI is investigating now, and what the family is investigating also, is he didn't have a job. I did the math. It costs about $350 minimum gas money alone. You're just like starving, and you haven't even bought a Big Mac, right, along the way. And so who paid for that? Did he sleep in his car? What did he do? How did he get the gun? Also, he had very limited English. And there's a lot of, I have a list literally of 180 questions that I'm getting.
And you know what candidly is happening? I think you know this. You know what's happening with this is, and this is one of the reasons I wanted to revisit this topic and talk about it a little bit. I was off almost all of last week. A lot of people in the media were, and a lot of people tuned out, right? A lot of people in this country, because of the holidays, they had their families in town.
Yeah.
And this is one of those stories that, didn't get a lot of attention because of that. Because when it was breaking and was happening, not as many. Look, it took me a couple of days to even hear about this because I was busy with my kids, et cetera. So in the aftermath and the way that the news cycle works so quickly with President Trump in particular, some of this stuff really does slip through the media cracks as well. So I'm glad that you're trying to shine some light on this.
Yeah, what's so important here is that this network is one that we must understand. A lot of people talk about the Muslim Brotherhood, and they understand that there is this Muslim Brotherhood network that encourages people to radicalization, and that the Bleegi Jamaat network is well known to anybody from South Asia. But you won't believe this. I have watched them work since I was 10 years old here in the United States, because one of my cousins got converted into that network, and he didn't become violent, and he didn't become a terrorist or anything like that, but he became, tyrannical in his own family. It was a rigid interpretation of Islam that made him the boss, that got him to go back to our native India because he rejected the immorality of the West, and they create that antagonism, and the wrong person going down that path of antagonism with America and Americans can end up with this kind of bloody and tragic result that we had on 17th Street Northwest. Yeah. I didn't miss this story because I'm from West Virginia, remember, and I've been here this past week, and sent the shockwaves through this little town here in West Virginia, where the young woman was, doing her duty in the National Guard from the West Virginia National Guard. Her last job was literally, scooping ice cream at the creamery in her town. And so the Afghan military and intel folks that I've talked to are so ashamed that this has happened, and they have been fighting terrorists for 20 years. And so they're pissed off, and they're like, one of our guys became a terrorist. Like, how the hell did that happen?
Yeah.
And they are, and what's happened, if people might not know, is, this has turned into a backlash against Afghans, because you got to, you're understandably angry and all that, but that's not going to solve the answer, because the ideologues, the propagandists, whoever indoctrinated him will slip back into the, crack, right, into our corners of American society. And that's why I'm on the job, to figure out who they are. Was somebody sitting in the passenger seat next to him? Was it in the back seat? Did they send him money? Did they get him gas money?
Yeah, these are all good questions. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And, sadly, we're not even talking about, everybody moved on so quickly, and everyone's talking about the double tap and all that stuff, and these victims barely got any of attention in the aftermath of this. But thank you for doing it. Asra, thanks for jumping on here with me this afternoon. If we don't speak here, have a great holiday. Thanks so much.
Okay, take care.
Yeah, take care.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
We've got some volume now, westbound 70. First of all, at Jennings Station Road. And then there is an accident between Lindbergh and 270, and that's really created a jam behind it. Then some moderate volume in the O'Fallon area. We've got westbound 40 really jammed, and this is approaching Kings Highway out through road work going on at Clayton Skinker. And then things open up just a bit. There's a little bit of a slowdown in both directions at 270, but it's mainly moderate. And then road work causing delays at Lake St. Louis Boulevard. Southbound 270, still only moderate volume, but it does stretch from Page down through 44, and then it opens up and looks better. 55, slow in the construction zone there. South of Arsenal, down through just north of Bates. I'm Sue Thomas, and that's traffic on 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
This report is sponsored by Overhead Door Company of St. Louis.
Overhead Door Company of St. Louis is hiring residential garage door technicians and installers. Apply today, get a call today. Hiring bonus up to $4,000. Benefits include health, dental, vision, and pension. Apply today at overheaddoorsstlouis.com.
Pretty good football game on tonight. The Cowboys at the Lions. Both those teams struggling just a little bit, but in playoff contention. I bring it up because you, ladies and gentlemen, can have a lot of fun on Underdog Fantasy with the game tonight and into the weekend. And it's real easy with football season in full swing. And Underdog, the best place to get in on all the action right here in Missouri. You have to download the app. You start with that. That's going to do you a lot of good right now, because if you use my promo code MarkR, that gets you $100 in bonus entries when you play your first $5. Again, the promo code is MarkR. And then when you're up on the platform, you just have to choose whether players will go higher on rushing yards, receptions, touchdowns, and more. You get your entries right, you can win up to 5,000 times your cash. Underdog. Make plays, win money. Use my code MarkR. That scores you $75 in bonus entries when you play your first $5. Must be 18 plus and present. Missouri. Terms apply. See assets.underdogfantasy.com/web/play and get terms _DFS_.html for details. Concerned with your play, call 800-GAMBLER or visit ncpgambling.org.
If you suffer from burning, tingling, or numb feet, pay special attention as we discuss neuropathy with Dr. Patton, D.C. Doctor, what is neuropathy?
Peripheral neuropathy is nerve damage to the feet and legs.
What are the symptoms?
The symptoms are numbness, burning, tingling, pain, and loss of balance.
Is neuropathy treatable?
It's absolutely treatable, and we have amazing results.
If you have burning, tingling, numbness, coldness in your feet or hands or balance issues, call us at Comprehensive Integrated Health today for a nerve damage screening. The screening will tell if you're at risk for serious complications and if you're a candidate for our cutting-edge treatment program. Don't wait until your symptoms are so severe nothing can be done. End-stage neuropathy leaves people confined to walkers, wheelchairs, and even amputations. The first 10 callers will receive a free nerve damage screening. Call 636-538-5188. That's 636-538-5188 for your free nerve damage screening. 636-538-5188.
Do you have 3 ex-wives and your current trophy wife wants a life insurance policy 3 times the size of the policies you had to purchase for your previous mistakes? If so, you need to call Big Lou at Term Provider, 800-700-6898. Big Lou is intimately familiar with your problems, and if you're 50 or 60 years old and in reasonably good health, a $1 million policy should only cost about $100 to $200 per month. Big Lou may have a solution for your previous policies as well. You may even save enough money to lighten the load on your new $1 million policy. Remember, call Big Lou. He's like you, except he's only on number 2. Call Term Provider at 800-700-6898. That's 800-700-6898. For $1 million in term life insurance that you can live with. Call Big Lou at 800-700-6898. 800-700-6898.
It's time for a $98 furnace tune-up.
At 3:35, this portion of the show is sponsored by Jerry Kelly Heating, Air Conditioning, Electrical, and Plumbing.
Real talk, today's issues. 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
A couple of days ago, we talked about this story. I found it quite entertaining. I think we picked it up on Monday's show. A former Florissant, Missouri police officer admitted to illegally searching the phones of 20 women during traffic stops, and he got nude photos. Now, Sue, when we were talking about this the other day, my wife pointed out, and I guess I should know that you do have the ability, like even on your, you have a communist phone, but I have an iPhone, and you can put into the search function in the pictures, you know, a word and it will come up. Like,
it will.
It's very good. That's, I guess, part of the AI, if you will. So this guy was taking these phones from traffic stops and I guess pulling nude photos off. It was all very fascinating. Well, he's going to prison now. But Brad Young is with us, 97.1 FM Talk Chief Legal Analyst, a partner with Harris, Young, and Kaiser. Hello, Brad. How are you this afternoon?
Mark, I'm doing great, sir. Thanks.
This is an interesting story. Now, my first word of advice for people, we'll see if the lawyer agrees here, is do not give your telephone to a cop ever, 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 ever.
Never.
Right.
Never.
Right.
There's no circumstance.
No.
Now, listen, I have my insurance information on my phone, probably most people. I also have a card in my glove box. But if a police officer wants my insurance info off of a card or wants yours off of your phone, rather, here's exactly what you do. You never, there are no circumstances, zero, where you give your phone to a police officer. What you do is you say, officer, I will hold up my phone with my insurance information so you can take a picture of it.
Right.
But you never release the phone, because once you do, there's an issue about whether you are now consenting to have your phone searched. Now, in this instance, with the Florissant cop, he was obviously doing it for illegal purposes. But I could give you scenarios where the police officer could say the driver handed me their phone. I looked through it because I suspected X, Y, and Z, and then I found this other criminal activity. Right. So you never give up your phone ever.
Yeah. And so this was weird. Like in this situation, I was sort of, leading into the segment this way. He allegedly grabs the phones because he says he needs to confirm their insurance coverage and vehicle registration in one of the cases. Then he searches through the phones. They must have given him, the passcode, or the phone was open, and he looks through the photos, and I guess maybe he puts the word nude in there, and he finds images of some of these women who are nude, and he, in one instance, didn't even text message himself.
He
one
did.
Of the pictures.
He's a genius.
He did.
Yeah.
It was a video. Actually, he texted himself a video.
So how many people, like if you got 20 victims here, women that pull, how many did he try this with would be my question. Are you kidding me?
Correct. We have no idea. We only know of the 20 where this actually worked. We don't know of how many people he pulled over, looked through their phones, didn't find any nude photos, and then just gave it back to them. We have no way of knowing that.
Well, and so this issue about not handing the phones over, this is, you might remember, I think I spoke with you and popped off. I hate this, this new law in Missouri because it's nanny state nonsense that says that a cop can pull you over simply for seeing you use your phone in your car. That's a bunch of nonsense. Correct. And if they come over and they say, well, how, was I texting? What was I doing? They're going to ask you questions. Don't give them your phone because they have no right to your phone. And, if they want to get a warrant or something like that, that's fine. If they want to give you a ticket for something else, that's fine, but do not hand over that phone.
No.
I love I love my cops out there, right? But there are certain things that us civilians need to make sure that we're taking care of, and that would certainly be one of them right there. Not a chance in hell would I hand that over. Let's talk about the double tap a little bit. I'm going to visit with a couple of different people on this issue. This is the case of the Venezuelan gunboat where this goes back a couple of months where it's, blown out of the waters. There's allegedly 2 people that are still alive. Pete Hegseth is in the room when the strike is ordered. He's not in the room when the admiral involved here sort of orders a second strike, which is why they're calling it the double tap. Now, as I indicated at the beginning of the show, look, I don't know where you are on this. I heard you a little bit on our sister station talking about it, but you have guys out there like Rand Paul that says it's clearly illegal. Other legal experts saying, no, this is fine. This is within the rules of engagement. So where would you be on this particular issue?
Well, here's where I am. I'm just strictly looking at it legally because from a policy standpoint, I'm obviously all in favor of stopping drug runners from sending fentanyl to the United States. I mean, who could be in favor of sending fentanyl to the United States? So I have no problem with stopping the drug runners. The problem I have is twofold. First of all, under Article 12 of the First Geneva Convention and Article 16 of the Second Geneva Convention, it prohibits attacking shipwrecked persons who are, the term is, out of combat. You can't kill people who are hanging onto the boat trying to survive. And that's not just the Geneva Convention. That's been adopted into U.S. law under 18 U.S.C. 2441. So it's literally against federal law to do that double tap when the people hanging on the boat are out of the combat. That's the first issue I have. Second issue I have is this. Under our entire legal system, the military is not charged in any way with enforcing the law. In fact, the Posse Comitatus Act says the military cannot enforce the law. They're not police officers. So the only branch of the military that is allowed under our legal system to enforce the laws is the Coast Guard. And the Coast Guard has to follow police procedures. If they suspect there's a drug boat, they got to stop the boat. They can only fire if they're fired upon. They arrest the individuals if they're transporting drugs or bringing them to the U.S. They have to be arrested. So there's no part of U.S. law that allows the Air Force to shoot Hellfire missiles and blow up drug boats. That's the problem I have with it.
Well, all right. I want you to listen to this here. This is Jeb Rubenfeld with Mark Halperin on a podcast. He's a guy, professor at Yale. We'll get response here.
I would not say make the argument you're making now, that it's fine to kill shipwrecked people who are floating in the water. That's going to lose. That's against the law. That's murder. What I would say is we weren't doing that. We were taking the boat out. We've all agreed that that the boat's a legitimate target. And we had to finish the job, take that boat out and sink all the fentanyl or whatever supposedly was on that boat. We're allowed to take a second shot at that boat. It's not a double tap at the guys. It's a double tap. It's not even a double tap.
So
second strike at the boat.
So just to clarify, if you were in like the Situation Room and you were the lawyer on call and they said, there are two guys there, they're defenseless, but the ship's still there and the mission's to get rid of that ship and the cargo. We're going to take out the ship. Those guys are going to die, but our purpose is to take out the ship and the cargo. You'd approve that?
That's essentially the decision that has already been made by those lawyers when they first say you can take out that ship with the 11 people on it. So I would ask if I'm a lawyer, I would ask very specifically, you're sure that the boat is still there and there's a reasonable chance it's got the cargo on it? And they say, yeah, the boat's still there. We can see it. The boat's there. Yeah. Then on the same grounds that I authorized, that I said it was legal to strike them in the first place, I would say, yeah, you can take a shot at that boat. That's right.
So, Brad, how would you respond to that? And by the way, the other thing that's really a component here is Admiral Frank Bradley, who has kind of got thrown under the bus in certain circumstances, certainly from the left. But what I hear about this guy is he's like one of the best in the military. He's buttoned up. He's got an incredible resume, and he would know exactly what the law is involving a strike like this.
Well, the hypothetical in that interview you just played, if that's in fact what happened, then I agree that doing that second shot, the second missile or the second firing on the boat, if in fact the boat was still navigable, still had the fentanyl on board, and the boat was not disabled, then certainly taking that second shot would be fine. It would not violate the War Crimes Act. But at least as far as I know, I've read tons on this issue. We don't know one way or the other what the facts are. We don't know if the ship was in fact disabled or was not disabled. At least I have not seen any definite information on it. Right?
Well, and that's part of the problem here, because all I'd like to know is the truth, right?
Right. Exactly. Yeah. But my problem overall, even, I laid it out with there's two legal issues. That still doesn't resolve the first legal issue, which is whether or not we can use the military to enforce the law. That's essentially what Trump is doing. And I just don't think that there is a legal authority to use the military to enforce drug laws. That's the problem I have overall.
No, I get that. But if he's what they're doing in order to justify that is they're declaring them terrorists, right?
Correct. And that's the question. If they're declared terrorists, now that's no different than when Obama would send drones over the Middle East and attack terrorists with Hellfire missiles with drones, as long as they're defined as terrorists. And then if that goes to court, I'll tell you exactly what would happen. If those people are identified and categorized as terrorists, then the courts would say, listen, it's not up to the courts to define what terrorists are. That's a political question.
So where does that leave us then?
And I'll tell you exactly where that leaves us. That leaves us with the courts saying we can't decide this issue. And so Congress would have to pass a law defining what terrorism is. And this Congress is never going to pass that.
Yeah.
Okay. This Congress is never going to touch that issue. So where it becomes is if Trump classifies these people as terrorists, in essence, he can continue to do this. If that's the position, then I'm all in favor of it. If we can classify them as terrorists, then yes, let's clean them up, get rid of them, and make sure they don't pollute our children in this country with fentanyl.
Brad Young, I have some other issues, but I'm up against the clock here. But I found this interesting this morning in the Wall Street Journal. I'm concerned for you. I'm concerned for your profession, Brad. Deeply down in my heart. It said, say goodbye to the billable hour thanks to AI. With AI taking over their grunt work, lawyers and other professionals may have to charge for outcomes rather than time spent.
No. Nope.
He says no.
Not a problem, my friend.
You're getting around that, huh?
Not a problem. Listen, I'm using AI all the time with summarizing medical records in my law practice.
I bet it helps
That's all
a lot.
I use it for.
Yeah.
It does help. And actually, to paraphrase some sales ads for maybe some car dealerships, I use less time using AI and I pass the savings on to you.
Well, look at that.
So,
I like to hear that.
Yeah. So I don't see it as a problem.
Okay. Hey, thanks for jumping on here with me.
My pleasure, Mark.
We'll see you.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
We've got a pretty good jam going. If you are westbound on 6440, and it lines up really close to Kings Highway, it goes out through McCausland. We had a stall reported. It was road work, by the way, at McCausland causing that delay, and they just got that cleared like 2 minutes ago. Hopefully that will improve a bit. Stall reported westbound 44 at Elm. Watch for that one on the right shoulder. Southbound 55 already slow, south of Arsenal, down through Bates. 70 westbound. There was an accident east of Lindbergh that has left us with a jam back to 170. So 6440 your best bet, even though we've got that slow go for a minute. And there's an accident reported northbound 170 north of 70. The rest is the usual volume. Southbound 270 Page down through 44, a little slow at 55 as well. And out west, 70 and 6440 slowing at their merge. We look okay on the Poplar Street Bridge. I'm Sue Thomas, and that's traffic. This report is brought to you by Aspen Contracting. Aspen Roofs. roofsbyaspen.com. Hello. Is your siding dragging down your home's curb appeal? Aspen Contracting can transform your house with new siding. Fast, efficient, built to last. Call Aspen today for a free siding inspection. 636-465-1696. I'm Sue Thomas. That's Traffic 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
Hey, it's Annie. Join us for our annual food drive at Ruler Foods in St. Charles, Friday, December 12th from noon to 3, benefiting the St. Louis Area Food Bank. Stop by, shop Ruler Foods, and make a difference this Christmas season. Learn more at 971talk.com/events.
If you're considering an annuity as part of your retirement plan, we need to talk. Hi, I'm Bob Stockdale, Senior Vice President Investments with the ClearPath Wealth Management Group at Stifel and host of On the Money, Saturday mornings at 11 on 97.1 FM Talk. Annuities can be a useful tool for some retirement investors, but not all annuities are created equal. Every week, we meet clients who own complex annuities that don't suit their needs and, in some cases, actively undermine their retirement plan. Before you purchase an annuity, get a second opinion from the ClearPath Wealth Management Group at Stifel. Requesting a consultation is free of charge. To request a free consultation, contact us at clearpathinvesting.com. That's clearpathinvesting.com, or call us at 636-695-2650. That's clearpathinvesting.com or 636-695-2650. Stifel Nicholas and Company Incorporated, member NYSE and SIPC.
Is your home ready for the holidays? Beat the holiday rush. Call Zero Res. Spots are filling up fast, so don't put it off any longer. Lock in your deal today at ZeroResSTL.com, and happy holidays from all of us at Zero Res.
Let Banner Construction show you what a difference James Hardy can make to your home. Banner's exterior design team will show you custom design options to transform your home into the neighborhood showplace. Banner is a preferred James Hardy and Pella Windows specialist. With winter, now is the time to think about Pella Windows for energy efficiency and comfort. Call Banner Construction 314-569-1050 to schedule your free in-home consultation, or the website bannerconstruction.com, and have a banner day.
You've got your whole life ahead of you, so choose a Medicare plan you can count on. And that's what you get with a Medicare Advantage plan from United Healthcare. With more than 45 years' experience serving its members, United Healthcare has plans with low monthly premiums that fit your life today and as your needs change tomorrow. The Medicare annual enrollment period ends December 7th, so go to uhc.com/Medicare today. United Healthcare Medicare plans. It's Medicare coverage Missouri can count on.
Hey guys, Glover here with my friends Mark and Neil Gelman of eXp Realty. If you need to sell your home to buy a new one, it's never been more important to have an experienced negotiator that you can trust. You need my friends Mark and Neil Gelman on your side. 314-336-1991. Go to thegelmanteam.com.
Guys, it's time to take charge of your health with my friends at Victory Men's Health. Mark Cox here. I already love what they do at Victory. They do hormone optimization, sexual health, weight loss, even vitamin deficiencies. Now they're offering specialty cardiovascular testing and even early detection cancer screening. Visit them at one of their 4 great locations, now in Sunset Hills, Town and Country, O'Fallon, Missouri, and O'Fallon, Illinois. Tell them Mark Cox sent you. Go to victorymenshealth.com.
Sponsored by Progressive. We make the claims process easy so you could get back on the road in no time. It's why over 43 million drivers trust Progressive. See for yourself at progressive.com.
You're listening to The Mark Reardon Show on 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
I think this was the guy when I was driving home last night, Jason Redmond, who is a retired Navy SEAL, and he's with an organization called Wounded Wear. He was on Laura Ingram's show last night, and he was talking about the double tap and, whether or not, because the issue now is what a lot of the Democrats say, and maybe even Rand Paul, is, well, you can't declare the drug boats or the Venezuelans narco-terrorists because there's no such thing as narco-terrorists. That's one of the talking points right now from people on the left.
It's kind of fascinating watching all this. Individuals who have never been to war. I think there's an interesting thing that's been happening. I think it started to happen in the war on terror, this blurring of the rule of law and the law of armed conflict. And the reality is, in the law of armed conflict, if we designate individuals as enemy combatants, which is what we did by designating these people as narco-terrorists, the individuals they're using are combatants. And under the law of armed conflict, the rules of engagement that have been set down, these individuals become a clear and present threat. We have the ability to go after them.
So, that's where I think Brad was pointing to the legal question of, okay, and I don't know who's going to define that, right? Because I guess the courts would have to come in and say, yes, they would get an official declaration of being a terrorist organization, and that seems to be the deciding point on all this?
It's fascinating to me, the individuals would also say, oh, well, these guys aren't a threat. I frequently saw in both Iraq and Afghanistan, both the Taliban and al-Qaeda were very good at shooting at us, putting weapons down, and then moving without a weapon. So to say they were no longer a threat, well, they would then move to an additional fighting position, and they would pick up a weapon and engage us again. The individuals on these boats, I guarantee they have weapons. The narco-terrorists aren't going to allow their drugs to go out there without individuals protecting them.
One of the reasons that Rand Paul says that he's against this is he put a stat out yesterday that said that 20%, when they were doing the research, 20% of the boats that were coming from Venezuela did not have drugs on them. But let me do a little quick math there. Okay, I'm not good at math. I'm really not. But doesn't that mean that 80% of them did?
Well, yes.
Okay, I was just checking that because you never can be sure. I guess part of me is, look, I always put myself in this situation. If this were Kamala Harris, oh my God, I can't even believe I said, if that was her doing this.
I can't even.
So, but let's say it was a Democrat, all right?
All right.
Whoever, Gavin Newsom, J.B. Pritzker, that fat ass, someone like that. And he does something like this. Would our side be all worked up about that and the legalities of taking out a bunch of drug runners? Now, I'm not trying to, shove the Constitution aside or, make a declaration that we're not going to follow the law and the rules of engagement. I think that's important. But for the Democrats, again, to put this on a hill that they're willing to die upon, this issue, drug runners that are being blasted out of the water. No, that's illegal. Trump, stop killing the terrorists. That's essentially what they're doing right now. So good luck with that. Best of luck. Godspeed.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
We've got traffic thinning out a bit on westbound 6440, but we still have a slow go approaching Kings Highway. They had some road work going on at McCausland that was causing that delay. And then some slow pockets really from there out through 270. You get a break and slow again out by Lake St. Louis Boulevard. Now, 70 is a mess. There's an accident past Lindbergh. It's actually between Lindbergh and 270, and it's they've moved it off to the right. It's mostly on the right shoulder, but also in the right lane. Look for a jam back to the inner belt, and northbound 170 is slow in that area, just north of 70. 55 slowing at Bates. We've got southbound 270 with volume from Olive down through, it looks like Manchester, and a little volume eastbound on the Poplar Street Bridge. This report brought to you by Point with an E Pest Control. I'm Sue Thomas with traffic on 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
Annie here, and I can proudly say no more spiders in my home. I use Point Pest Control 4 times a year, and I haven't seen any, not a single one, since they've been in my home. Mention Annie and get 10% on top of any other special. Point Pest Control, 636-798-0023.
Well, it's a fun time any time of the year, as I say, to be a member of the Missouri Athletic Club, but I think the holidays, they make it real special, both at the downtown clubhouse and at the West location. I tend to hang out west. I'm going to be visiting with my friend Kevin Babb tomorrow. He's a local musician. We've had him on the air before. He's played with Jeff Faulkner. We got Jeff coming in to talk about the ELO band that he's a part of tomorrow night, which is called Mr. Blue Sky. But Kevin and I are going to meet at the West location for the MAC and have a great lunch tomorrow. You can dine at the West Clubhouse and order from a brand new selection of lunch and dinner options at the 1903, which is kind of like the fancier area. And then the Stan Musial Grill is, I think, where Kevin and I are going to meet tomorrow. Lots of stuff coming up in the beginning of the new year. Like they have the 1903 Brunch Club that's going to kick off on Sunday, January 4th. And then at the end of the year, if you're looking for New Year's plans at the downtown clubhouse at the Jack Buck Grill, there's a huge party that's going to take place with a jazz trio performance. So always great stuff happening at the Missouri Athletic Club. Find out more at mac-stl.org.
We all hear the radio ads about the IRS. They tell you to be afraid, to be scared, and they try to frighten you into calling. I'm not here to do that. Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000, $50,000, or $500,000, we have a solution. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in your car, at work, or with your kids. No matter where you are, call now. 800-575-6986. Don't lose hope. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS.
Generous programs are now available that can give you a fresh start.
Our passion is taxes and helping individuals fix their IRS problems.
We have over 1,000 5-star reviews on Google and an A+ with the Better Business Bureau.
You don't need to be afraid of the IRS any longer. End your tax nightmare today by visiting us online at TRA.com
or call 800-575-6986. That's 800-575-6986.
Tax Relief Advocates. Real solutions for real people.
Don't get lulled into believing the IRS is getting soft. It's just the opposite. Hi, this is Lance Drury with the Lance Drury Law Firm. We are being told by IRS collection officers that their higher-ups are demanding that they get more aggressive than ever. So don't ignore them any longer. Level up. If you have unfiled returns, unpaid taxes, levies, or liens, call me, Lance Drury, today and let me get between you and the IRS. I'll protect your rights. At the Lance Drury Law Firm, our practice is focused 100% on fighting the IRS. Remember, IRS problems are legal problems, and they need to be handled by an expert attorney who's done it for decades. So call the Lance Drury Law Firm today. We're local. Our office is right here in St. Louis. Call 314-260-6120. Visit Lance, D-R-U-R-Y, law.com to schedule your free consultation with your local tax resolution law firm.
The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely upon advertisements.
KFTK FM Florissant from the Kaufman Townsley St. Louis's Injury Lawyers Studio. Call 314-777-7777.
That's 314-777-7777.
Lead to new information. I'm Lisa Brady, Fox News. Federal prosecutors and the FBI say months of sifting through existing evidence led to today's arrest of a man accused of planting pipe bombs in Washington, D.C., nearly 5 years after the suspect had been seen on grainy surveillance video.
We're talking 2021. I know that doesn't seem like that long ago, but agents repeatedly say it was tough because he had a hoodie on, he had a mask on, you couldn't see his eyes, you couldn't see his hands, you couldn't see his feet. He did have unique Nike shoes, which only 25,000 people apparently were issued, and FBI used a measuring tool where they were able to see that he was 5'7", they predicted, based on kind of spatial awareness with some other items in the picture, and it turns out that he's 5'6", so that seemed to work. But as far as the identification, they say they just had to go through old tips.
Fox's David Spun, 30-year-old Brian Cole Jr. of Woodbridge, Virginia, so far facing explosive-related charges. A closed-door briefing on Capitol Hill from the admiral who oversaw a September double strike on a suspected drug boat.
Senate Intelligence Committee Chairman Tom Cotton says after the first strike on the drug boat on September 2nd, he saw two survivors fighting to flip the boat and stay in the fight, as he put it. So he thinks the second strike killing them was justified.
And in subsequent strikes, there is an example where survivors actually were shipwrecked and distressed and not trying to continue on their mission. And they were treated, as they should be, as non-combatants.
The survivors in the October strike were picked up by U.S. forces. When told that House Intelligence Ranking Member Jim Himes found the strikes disturbing, Cotton replied,
"What's disturbing to me is that millions of Americans have died from drugs being run to America by these cartels."
He said he believes such strikes will continue.
Fox's Jessica Rosenthal. America is listening to Fox News.
The holidays mean more travel, more shopping, more time online, and more personal info in more places that could expose you more to identity theft. But LifeLock monitors millions of data points per second. If your identity is stolen, our US-based restoration specialists will fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Don't face drained accounts, fraudulent loans, or financial losses alone. Get more holiday fun and less holiday worry with LifeLock. Save up to 40% your first year with promo code NEWS. Visit lifelock.com. Terms apply.
Picture this. You're on a date, and then bad breath happens. Confidence gone. Here's the truth. Most gums and mints are just bad breath Band-Aids, but not Zellman's Minty Mouth. The functional breath freshener you swallow. Tiny dual-action capsules with mint on the outside, parsley seed oil inside, clinically tested to fight the toughest offenders, even garlic and onions. It's only available online. Go to Zellmans.com, Z-E-L-M-I-N-S, Zellmans.com, code FRESH for 15% off.
Air Comfort Service, heating, cooling, and insulation, weather.
The full moon of December is tonight. It's known as the cold moon. Boy, is that appropriate. Partly to mostly clear skies. We're going down to 12 degrees. No record, though, but it is really cold for this time of year. Friday, mostly sunny skies. Cold morning, 38 in the afternoon. Still well below average. Friday night, some clouds, 29. Saturday, partly sunny, 38. This is 97.1 FM Talk. Chief Meteorologist Dave Murray.
This hour of the Mark Reardon Show is sponsored by Gamma Tree Experts. Your trees deserve the best care. Call Gamma Tree Experts. This is the Mark Reardon Show on 97.1 FM Talk.
Not too bad out there. A little sunshine still peeking through as the sun will begin to go down, and it'll be pitch black in, like 45 minutes or something like that.
That's how it works.
Depressing time of the year, unfortunately. We're almost there to the weekend, though. We have a roundtable tomorrow. We didn't have one last Friday because we were off for Thanksgiving. Fred was out of the country. There was no way in hell we could put together a show.
I mean, come on.
Without Fred here. There's no doubt about that.
How about old Fred Bottenheimer over there, ladies and gentlemen?
So on the roundtable tomorrow, Jane will be here. Jeff Rainford, the former chief of staff for Mayor Slay, political consultant, and Tim Fitch, former St. Louis County Police Chief and also County Council member. He's awesome. They're all roundtable veterans. They'll all be here talking about a variety of issues. We'll have Paul Hall on entertainment, which will be fun. I can't remember what actually opens this weekend in the theaters or on streaming. Cusimano will be here as we head into the weekend with sports. And then a Friday visit with Mr. Kilmeade. Fred, that's not often very common.
No, it isn't.
Sometimes he gets a little busy on Wednesday and a Thursday. I mentioned Jeff Faulkner with Mr. Blue Sky, which, I've been talking to Jeff for years, and I finally saw Mr. Blue Sky like 2 years ago, and they were unbelievable. It was after I saw the real ELO, so it made even more of an impression. I'm like, these guys are good. It's like, you guys have been talking about the Neil Diamond movie, and I rewatched half of the documentary last night that Greg Kos did. So this movie, Song Sung Blue, which is coming out near Christmas, is about a Neil Diamond tribute. I want to say tribute act, but Lightning, he looks like Neil Diamond. Hugh Jackman plays him in the movie. And then Thunder, his wife, whose name was, I think, Claire, she did Patsy Cline songs. Okay, so that was kind of their thing. He did Neil Diamond, and she blew people away with Patsy Cline songs. But the story, and I'm rewatching the documentary, and I'm just remembering all of these things that happened to them, because you guys were asking me, how do you make that,
how is that movie worthy?
Because Lightning is such a compelling character, and now that I'm watching the documentary, I can totally see Hugh Jackman is going to knock this out of the park. So I'm very much looking forward to that. And Greg Kos, the documentarian who made that film, is going to join us as we get closer to Christmas with the movie. One serious thing before I do something a little lighter as we head into Sue's News. We were talking about the double tap and some of the things, and there's a variety of opinions on this stuff. I mean, again, I can't even keep it track because you got Judge Napolitano on Newsmax, of all places, saying this.
It gives me no pleasure to say what I'm about to say because I worked with Pete Hegseth for 7 or 8 years at Fox News. This is an act of a war crime, ordering survivors who the law requires be rescued instead to be murdered. There's absolutely no legal basis for it. Everybody along the line who did it, from the Secretary of Defense to the Admiral to the people who actually pulled the trigger, should be prosecuted for a war crime for killing these two people.
Okay, but the judge is speaking a bit, over his skis there, because we don't know, and I would say this, and this is what I said with Brad, we need to know exactly what happened here in the circumstances, but there's a very good chance that the circumstances were different. Don't take my word for it. Oh my gosh, ABC News and Martha Raddatz reports.
Tonight, new information. According to a source familiar with the incident, the 2 survivors climbed back onto the boat after the initial strike. They were believed to be potentially in communication with others and salvaging some of the drugs. Because of that, it was determined they were still in the fight and valid targets. A JAG officer was also giving legal advice. So again, David, that video will be key, and Admiral Bradley will be on the Hill tomorrow behind closed doors.
So this will be interesting today because the Admiral, everything I hear about him is outstanding. So, and I know that people who are complaining about the attack are throwing him under the bus, but I don't see people in the military questioning Admiral Bradley and his decision-making. And when I heard his resume last night, I heard it from, I played that soundbite from the guy that was on Laura's show last night, who was the former Navy SEAL. He was talking about the resume of Admiral Bradley, and it really is incredible. So we'll have to see it. I think maybe we just have to wait for some facts to come out, but the narrative could change after today. If the Admiral testifies, Fred, if that's an Armed Services Committee hearing or what is that?
I don't know which it is, but I know what senators and congressmen saw the video of the second strike today.
Okay.
And walked away after seeing the same thing with 2 different opinions.
Really? So they came out after seeing the video.
Senator Cotton said totally legal, and you've got Congressman Hines saying totally illegal.
Yeah, so here's Tom Cotton.
The first strike, the second strike, and the third and the fourth strike on September 2nd were entirely lawful and needful. I saw 2 survivors trying to flip a boat loaded with drugs bound for the United States back over so they could stay in the fight. And potentially, given all the context we heard, of other narco-terrorist boats in the area coming to their aid to recover their cargo and recover those narco-terrorists.
Okay, so there's one interpretation. This is Congressman Jim
Jim Hines.
Jim Hines, do you know where he's from? Democrat.
Yeah.
Democrat.
There is no such thing as a narco-terrorist. There are very bad narcotics people, cartels, etc., but they're desperate to make this look like it's ISIS or Al-Qaeda because that's the very thin line on which their illegal use of the United States military to take these people out resides.
Again, just for a moment, outside of the legalities, which are important, I'm not trying to, disregard the Constitution, but I simply cannot believe that this is another hill that the Democrats want to die in. They're more concerned. Listen, this happens all the time. They are more concerned with two drug runners hanging off a boat than they are kids in America getting poisoned by fentanyl and cocaine.
Did you hear do you have the second cut of Jim Hines?
Yeah, here
Listen
it
to
is.
this.
Here it is.
What I saw in that room was one of the most troubling things I've seen in my time in public service.
Give me a break.
You have two individuals in clear distress, without any means of locomotion, with a destroyed vessel, who are killed by the United States.
Who were drug runners, okay? And they feel this is important, I guess, to them. And again, I don't get why it's a partisan issue. Now, for the most part, it's a partisan issue. There are some crossover, as I indicated. Rand Paul thinks it was illegal. Tom Cotton doesn't think it was illegal. Judge Napolitano says it was illegal. You have what's Turley said on Fox. Have you heard him?
I haven't
at
heard
all?
him. I know we had Jack Keane yesterday say totally
Well, he defended it, right. How about showing all of us the video?
That'd be something.
I mean, maybe they can make it more accessible and see if we can see the video and we can judge for ourselves. Because to your point, Fred, that's a dramatically different interpretation from two different people who watched that video. But again, why isn't you would think in a situation like this, because again, why is it politics? Who cares about R&D when it comes to this? Well, they do because it's orange man bad. Anything that Trump does is bad. Now, Rand Paul, on the other hand, he's very strict constitutional, dude, and he adheres to that. Maybe his interpretation is a little different. I just find it amazing that we're talking about this as much as we are. And that Democrats are saying, well, no, those aren't terrorists because it's not Al-Qaeda and it's not, the Taliban. Look, these are people who are having more damage. They're inflicting more damage on our actual country than maybe some of the other terrorist groups that still exist are. So I don't know who gets to put the red marker and say you're a terrorist, but maybe we can get that definition settled so we can move on and take out drug boats. I don't know. That whole story kind of blows me away. I'm really looking forward to this conversation at the bottom of the hour with Dr. Siegel. Dr. Marc Siegel, who was with us so much during the early days of COVID and into 2021, senior medical analyst with Fox News, practicing physician at NYU Langone, and he has a book out called, I've seen him on Fox promoting this several times, called The Miracles Among Us, How God's Grace Plays a Role in Healing. And he interviewed our friend Chris Smith, who was shot in the head. His story became, an episode of 48 Hours. He's being interviewed this week by a group from the UK that's doing a documentary on fatal first dates, which he had. But Dr. Siegel does not have Chris in this book, but I think he's going to tell you that he's going to put him in the sequel because his story is amazing. And this is kind of some of these people, and Chris had this, people who have had like near-death experiences and some of the
find
things that
those
happen.
interesting.
Yeah, I know. Well, that's what the book is about. So we'll talk to him right after Sue's News, and Sue's News is coming up next.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
On the roads tonight, we still have a jam on westbound 70. Here's the good news. They cleared the accident, and it was westbound west of Lindbergh in the right lane. But the bad news is we now have an accident reported again in that area and a jam back to the inner belt. Now, if you're westbound 6440, you're thinking, aha, I can get around it. Well, it's slow pockets approaching Kings Highway all the way out through 270. Accident reported southbound 141 just a little bit north of 6440. 270 southbound already busy approaching Olive down through Doherty Ferry. And we had an accident reported northbound north of Manchester. Out west, 70 moderate volume west of O'Fallon through looks like Wentzville now, and 64 is slow pockets from Highway N out through the 70 split. We've got slow traffic southbound 170 at 64, some moderate volume headed for the Poplar Street Bridge at 55, slowing at Arsenal. I'm Sue Thomas, and that's traffic on 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
This report is sponsored by McKelvey Homes.
Hi, I'm Jim Brennan of McKelvey Homes. Have you always wished for a brand new home in an established neighborhood? Select one of our move-in ready custom homes throughout St. Louis, or we will build on your lot. Visit McKelveyhomes.com and move up to McKelvey.
One of the things that's very interesting and inspiring to me over my 4 decades in radio is to meet my sponsors. And I talk about this a lot because I don't really work for a living. I hate to admit that, but I just blab on the radio. But some of the folks that I work with, and I want to talk about Mike Gower and Michael's Bass, they have such a passion. They've made such a commitment to their craft and their profession. They're very proud of what they do. And Michael's Bass is awesome because what they can do for you is do a great quality bathroom remodel, whether it's an entire remodel or you just want something to be a little safer in there if mom and dad are getting older or if you yourself are getting older. And they can do it with American-made products and a price that comes in on a bid 30 to 50% less than the competition, and you still get top-notch A-plus work from Michael's Bass. All they do is Bass, family-owned and operated. Mike's the owner, Mike Gower. His daughter, Melody, is going to take your call. They have great folks in the field to measure up and, give you bids on the plan. Again, they come in 30 to 50% less. They work with customers who are approved by the VA for a grant that will pay for most, if not all, the price of their bathroom project. So call Michael's, 636-775-0800 or michaelsbass.com. Don't forget, $500 off your project or a free shower door.
The holidays mean more travel, more shopping, more time online, and more personal info in more places that could expose you more to identity theft. But LifeLock monitors millions of data points per second. If your identity is stolen, our US-based restoration specialists will fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Don't face drained accounts, fraudulent loans, or financial losses alone. Get more holiday fun and less holiday worry with LifeLock. Save up to 40% your first year with promo code NEWS. Visit lifelock.com. Terms apply.
If a Lenovo computer for your business is on your holiday list, don't shop around. Just go directly to the source, Lenovo.com. It's your last chance to get exclusive deals on the PCs you want for your business, like the ThinkPad X9 14 Aura Edition and Yoga 7i 2-in-1. So avoid all that shopping chaos and price comparing, and just go directly to the source, Lenovo.com, where PCs are up to 35% off. That's Lenovo.com.
Lenovo. There's a lot on the line in divorce. This is Joe Cordell of Cordell & Cordell, the largest family law firm in the country, with over 35 years of helping clients navigate divorce. Divorce touches all areas of your life: your home, savings, retirement, and of course, kids. So when you find yourself facing divorce, you need a partner you can count on.
If you are facing divorce, contact Cordell & Cordell today at 1-855-GET-LEGAL. The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely upon advertisements. 600 Kelwood, St. Louis.
Hey, it's Mark Reardon. If you're nearing retirement or already retired, call my friends Thomas Helbig and Bob Kershaw with the Retirement Advisory Group. They'll show you how linking to the market is much safer than owning the market for your retirement savings. They're the official financial advisors of my show. Go to retirementkey.com.
What's up, world? It's Von Miller, Super Bowl MVP, chicken farmer, and now host of Free Range. This is a show where I go off the field and off the script. We're talking what's hot in music, film, trending news, and everything blowing up your feed. If you love football, you'll feel at home. But if you're here for the vibes, the internet deep dives, the conversation, this is your podcast. Join me every Wednesday. Follow and listen to Free Range with me, Von Miller, everywhere you get your podcast.
Now back to Mark Reardon, calling out the nonsense, one segment at a time. 97.1 FM Talk.
Oh, as I mentioned, Dr. Marc Siegel coming up. I should have been mentioning Michele Tafoya's coming up after 5 o'clock as well. We love Michele, the host of the Michele Tafoya podcast. She's up there in Minneapolis where all this Somali controversy and Tim Walz controversy is. So she's coming up at 5:04. Let's do this right now.
These allegations are deeply concerning.
Does the president have any comment?
We're not going to comment.
It's not clear messaging.
No.
And now, Sue's News. Brought to you by Sue.
We had the fireplace and chimney guy over today. We've got in this fireplace like this ancient insert from the 80s that is supposed to heat the whole house. It's got a fan on it. It weighs 800 pounds. I don't want it there, Fred.
I understand.
And you'd have to burn wood, and these blowers that make all this noise. And we had the guy over, and he's like, well, yeah, I could take that out. It's just that it weighs 800 pounds.
Oh, my gosh.
It's going to cost but it's so heavy that it sits on this piece of limestone, he said. And you can see where the limestone has just a little bit of a crack because it's so heavy. So that's not going to be inexpensive, but that thing has to go. And then because here's what I want. I just want to sit in that room and see flames and have a nice, this is like a box and you can't see, you know what I mean?
How old do you think it is?
I found it in the notes of the house, 1987.
Oh, okay.
And they're supposed to be really good in heating. I'm not.
Hey, by the way, we never got an update. Did the toaster ever start working? The one that was in the wall?
And they're going to have to pull it out to fix it. And I think that means I'll have to do wall repairs. And so then I just said,
I know, but it's such a cool little feature.
It's so cool.
Yeah, oh well.
I don't want to pull it out of there. Anyway. A happy National Cookie Day. I should have told Mark earlier so he could have baked us cookies. He's a baker.
Look, I did bake cookies, and I keep... The thing is when I bring you guys cookies, then my wife and daughter complain, where did all the cookies go?
Yeah.
So I've had to take care of the home front. But, yeah, I've been baking a lot the last couple of weeks, actually.
Okay, good.
You have no proof of that. I need to provide some proof.
I'm trying to say that for Fred. And it's also National Sock Day. Which made me recall that when it was my brother's birthday, my mother would always wrap up some socks for me, and vice versa. You know, you got to throw the other kids something. And it was always socks, and I'm like, well, I don't know if I'd rather have that or nothing.
No, that was the worst present ever.
It's just nobody wants socks.
No.
Now today, I'll take some socks. I
Yeah,
got
because
no problem with
you
it,
have
right?
socks. Like I like, socks have better warming technology and stuff like that. Unfortunately, I buy expensive socks, which is
Same.
dumb.
That's
but
why I want someone else to give them to me.
Right.
Yeah, that's not a bad deal. It's also National Dice Day. Fred, you play the dice. You roll the dice. What's happening?
No, I don't do dice.
Huh.
I've been doing a lot of dice with my daughter because we do this math game. So we
what's
roll the
that?
dice. Well, we roll the dice, and it's double sixes, 6 times 6, 36. So it's a little tool that they have, and they send the kids home with this, chart. And then what we do is when you have the number, you can fill in almost like a bingo card, and you try to get as much of the board with your numbers as you can.
I kind of like that, but are you limited to 6 times 6
No.
is the highest? How do you
so,
get to the nines?
You can't get to the. You can't get to the.
She's
nines.
going to be really good through the sixes.
Well, you can get to the nines, but you can't get to the. Yes, you can't get to.
Okay.
I mean, the number 9 can be there, right? Can it? No, I guess it can't. A 6 and a 3. No, a 6 and a 3.
Oh, I see. You're doing it that way.
Yeah, 2 die.
Okay.
Right. Fred,
yeah,
you
you're
look
not
very
good
confused.
at math. None of that made sense to me.
What's 6 times 6?
Well,
36.
Okay,
Right.
so the 2 dice come up, and it's 36, and then my daughter has to say what that is. What's 6 times 6?
Okay.
And then 36. So you find the number on the board, you fill it in. So then maybe you roll a 3 and a 6. Well, that would be, I was adding, I wasn't multiplying,
18.
Right.
Then what do you do?
So what's 3 times 3?
Again, 3 times 3 is 9.
Right. So you do all the numbers. You just can't get past, I guess,
you can't.
But
36.
you never have to do 9 times 7.
That's what we're
Not
saying.
in this particular game.
Yes.
Oh, my God. I've complicated the math game so much this afternoon.
Well,
I thought it was
I'm
so
not sure
simple.
You have. You can only make it through. It's Fred. You can only do it through the 6s.
That's right.
All right.
I think in 6th grade they do 3 dice. I don't know. I have no idea.
Maybe they do more than a 6-sided dice.
Maybe they're just teaching the kids how to gamble. I have no idea. I'm going to
that
have to
could
check
be
the
it.
alleys.
All right. On this day in history, this is very St. Louis, but I loved it. 77 years ago today, it's 1948, and at 6622 Chippewa, Gus and Edith Belt opened the first Steak and Shake in St. Louis.
Wow.
It was the 26th restaurant in the chain. And they opened it here. He had been working on the Illinois side. He had a Shell station, I guess, that wasn't going particularly well. And he thought, what else can I do? And opened this. This, of course, is from my book, This Day in St. Louis History by Joe Sonderman. Otherwise, I would never know that.
Was
but
that the
Gus
one?
and Edith Belt, first
Was that
Steak and
the
Shake.
one at Chippewa and
Morgan Ford? I don't know, because they tore that down.
Right.
I
that
was
was
going to
my
look it up.
childhood Steak and Shake.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's nice. Wait,
might
you
have been
worked
it, though.
there?
No.
No, you went there
That's where
'cause
we
you
would
live
go
nearby,
when we
right?
Oh,
Right.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay. And on this day in history, 45 years ago, in 1980, 2 months after the passing of drummer John Bonham, the remaining members of Led Zeppelin announced that out of respect for their fallen friend, they could no longer carry on as Led Zeppelin, which,
They
we
made
have
the right. I
so-
think they made the right
yes,
choice
that
there.
we have so many bands that aren't the bands that they originally were anymore. And Led Zeppelin said in 1980, we're done.
Yeah, what sucks about that is they were one of my favorite bands in the 80s, or in the 70s. I'm sorry.
70s.
And I had a ticket to see them at Soldier Field, and John Bonham died. And I never got to go to that
Oh,
concert.
that's terrible.
It is terrible.
I'm looking forward
It's
to
more
this.
terrible for John
him,
dying,
yeah.
Well,
I think,
yeah.
but yeah.
I mean, well, yes. I'm looking forward to this. They've got Waymo, the robo-taxi, expanding into 4 other markets, and St. Louis is one of them. Oh, yes. I want to get in one of those things. First off, they say they're going to test the self-driving ones in Philadelphia, and then they're going to put the manned Waymos here, Baltimore and Pittsburgh, because apparently they have to send the Waymo with a driver until they figure out and kind of map the roads. And then you can go driverless. But I was impressed that we're the next round. Fred, are you going in one?
Well, I would.
I would.
I kind of backed off. Before I would say no, not at all. But I mean, if they're testing it all out,
Yeah, I would. Wouldn't you, Mark?
I don't know.
Really?
I might be a little.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, my gosh,
Something
I totally
about
would do it. We should all broadcast live from our first Waymo ride. I think we'll do it.
when it comes for driving, it's like anyone but me. I'd rather someone else do it.
Well,
No,
no,
the
the
crowd
crowd does
doesn't
not
like
agree.
that. No, they do
did
not.
not give us a date on when that's supposed to happen.
And how big is the fleet?
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
They didn't say, here's how many we're going to be releasing.
When I had Brad Young on last hour, I meant to ask him because there's some interesting legal aspects that surround that. Well, maybe we do that next week, Fred, because that is an interesting topic, and maybe we'll know more about the ETA as well.
Oh, that could be. All right, I was giving out, we were talking about this yesterday, the YouTube number ones in 2025. Well, Mr. Beast, of course, is the top creator. Joe Rogan Experience top podcast. Morgan Wallen's album, I'm the Problem, was Apple Music's most listened to album of 2025. Morgan reposted Apple's announcement with a caption that seemed to shade the CMAs. He said something like, I like to let my fans do the talking, whatever. And Bad Bunny, who we're all looking forward to, is Spotify's most streamed artist in the world for a record-setting 4th year, but Taylor Swift is still number 1 in the U.S. And I'm sure a lot of that Bad Bunny thing has to do with people going, who is this for the Super Bowl?
No, I don't think so.
No?
No, because, see, when I tried to do a little research on this, and that caught me off guard, but before that, he was the number 1 streamed artist on the planet, which, it makes a little bit more... Makes more sense that way.
Well, that's true. Which
but
is why,
he had, I was not familiar with him. The only Bad Bunny I have is in my house right now, and he's named Oreo. But
Yes.
the dude does have a huge, huge international following.
I've been
all
listening to a lot of Bad Bunny.
And what are your thoughts?
Pretty good.
So here's
Although
what
I can't remember or name anything he's doing because it's all in another language.
I said this at
the
the time. Look, I bet he's going to put on a pretty good Super Bowl show. I really do.
Well, he has to at this point.
Yeah, right. There's pressure. I'm going to say, I think, because I thought last year was terrible, but I think this one might surprise us. That's just a gut feeling.
I can't even remember last year. Who was it?
It was Drake or whatever.
Oh,
one
yeah.
of those. Drake or one of the hip hop guys that has one name.
There are, there's so many.
I don't know.
There are 51 Christmas trees this year at the White House and Lego portraits of President Trump and George Washington on display in the green room. I would love to see this. Now, they used to do a PBS, like a Channel 9 would do let's walk through the White House at Christmas, and they'd show all the decorations. But it's Trump, so of course we don't get that. And I would love to see it. And there's a 120-pound gingerbread replica of the White House in the state dining room. And if you go online, I love all the Christmas specials that take me on tours and show me stuff. But, I don't get to see that. And I really would like to see it. Oh, and I wanted to mention this for Mark, that Zootopia 2 did $556 million internationally over Thanksgiving holiday at the box office. It's the highest ever global opening for an animated film, highest global opening for any film in 2025.
Wow.
That's pretty good. Let me correct myself on one thing.
Yes.
Kendrick Lamar. So it was someone who had 2 words.
Kendrick Lamar.
It was
Oh,
Usher
yes.
was 2 years ago.
Usher.
Kendrick Lamar. The only thing I knew is it wasn't a white dude. That's all I could tell you. I can guarantee you that. couple of white people slipped into the national anthem and the God Bless America thing at the Super Bowl. Keep an eye on that. That's a little scary.
Finally, at Sue's News, today's random fact. Early 20th century Pennsylvania Germans considered it bad luck to take a bath or change your clothes between Christmas and New Year.
I like that.
I'm Jim Chesko with Your Money Now. Reporting results after the market close, Hewlett-Packard Enterprise's quarterly revenue came in shy of analyst estimates, with server revenue down 5% from the year earlier period. HPE also issued a tepid forecast for the holiday quarter due to cautious enterprise spending amid economic uncertainty. All of that has HPE shares sliding nearly 8% in late trading. In the regular Thursday market session, stocks were narrowly mixed. The S&P 500 managed a gain of 7 points and the Nasdaq rose 51, but the Dow Industrials dipped 32. Broadcast officials at NBC vow to continue to support the network's late-night comedy shows that have come under attack from President Trump, who has several times called for Seth Meyers to be fired from Late Night with Seth Meyers amid his frequent jokes about Trump, and has also criticized the Tonight Show host Jimmy Fallon. But NBC Universal Studios Chair Perlina Igbokwe said at a morning event the network will, quote, continue to do what we've been doing really successfully. That's Your Money Now.
You deserve a chair that works as hard as you do. X-Chair. X-Chair ergonomic seating is built to move with you. DVL technology adapts to support your lumbar. Side Float Infinite Recline lets you lean back and relax. X-Chair gives you all-day comfort and productivity. Save up to 50% during the X-Chair holiday sale. But hurry, inventory is limited. Visit xchair.com and save up to 50% today. That's xchair.com.
A new exclusive offer with an eligible Bank of America Visa credit card is your opportunity to go from cardholder to ticket holder for the FIFA World Cup 2026. For a limited time, when you're approved for a new customized cash rewards or unlimited cash rewards Visa credit card, you're eligible for a chance to purchase FIFA World Cup 2026 tickets. Learn more today at BofA.com/card FWC26. What would you like the power to do? Bank of America, proud to be the official bank of FIFA World Cup 2026. Bank of America N.A. in partnership with Visa. Terms apply. All rights reserved.
Hey, let's talk about Susan L. Ward. She's a family practice attorney here in the St. Louis area with a brand new office, by the way. I know they're very excited about that. They opened it up in May in Des Peres at 270 in Manchester. And family law is a particularly tough area of the law from this perspective. A lot of emotions are involved. I mean, you could probably say that about other lawsuits and cases that go before a judge. But let's face it, with divorced children, and sometimes children can be very, very young when mine were when you go through this. That's why you need someone on your side like Susan to really advocate for you and to make sure that the rest of your life goes well, because I guarantee you this, I know this, and I've told people this a lot, you'll get through it, and it'll seem like another lifetime ago, but it's going to be tougher if you don't have good representation. So check out Susan's firm. The new office is great. STLFamilyLaw.com is the website. There's a confidential consultation form up there, or you can call 314-783-9400. Susan L. Ward, the focus on family law and the emphasis on you.
Overhead Door Company of St. Louis is hiring residential garage door technicians and installers. Join the team trusted here since 1926. Apply today, get a call today. No experience necessary. We will train motivated applicants to repair and install garage doors. Mechanical, carpentry, and service industry experience is a plus. Hiring bonus up to $4,000. Benefits include health, dental, vision, and pension. Earn as you learn to service the best garage door customers in St. Louis. Apply today at overheaddoorstlouis.com.
The appetite for destruction returns. Guns N' Roses World Tour 2026. One night. Busch Stadium, August 16th. Tickets on sale Friday at 10 a.m. at livenation.com.
It's time for a $98 furnace tune-up.
This portion of the show is sponsored by Jerry Kelly, heating, air conditioning, electrical, and plumbing.
Your voice, your values. 97.1 FM Talk. St. Louis Conservative.
Well, you see him on Fox all the time. Fox News senior medical analyst and practicing physician at NYU Langone. He has a new book out called The Miracles Among Us, How God's Grace Plays a Role in Healing. Dr. Marc Siegel is with us this afternoon. How are you, Dr. Siegel?
Great to be with you.
I know
Hey,
that.
Mark, how are you?
I'm good. I know that he's not included in the book, but you spoke with my friend Chris Smith recently, who was shot in the head here in the St. Louis area 4 years ago, I think, Thanksgiving. And it's an amazing story of recovery. So thank you for doing that.
He's going to be in the sequel for sure. There's a couple of aspects to that, and he fits in with my whole concept of miracles are cumulative. They're not one bolt of lightning from the sky. They don't involve only one person. They involve doctors and patients. They involve healers. They involve family members.
Yeah.
Chris's story is phenomenal because you know it well. He got shot in the head. The woman he was dating got killed. He was visited by his father. Father said, I'll tell you how you know this is me because my best friend Brett put 2 marijuana cigarettes into my pocket of my coffin, and only 2 people know about it, Brett and your mom. He tells his mom, she breaks into tears. Brett verifies it. And, he
It's
said
amazing.
to his son, he said to his son, you're going to live. And that kind of message, you're going to live, coming from the great beyond in the form of an angel, that's part of what my book is about. It's about visitations, about visions, about dreams, about prayer, about spiritual realities really being really important in medicine, in healing, in life. Really important message at a time when doctors are getting carried away with the great technology we have and saying, well, that person is homeless. Maybe we should, do assisted suicide. All that is way off. We need to cherish each life.
Absolutely. Was there one case in particular that inspired this book? And I know you include even some of your colleagues. Brett Baer is featured in here. I think Shannon Bream as well.
Shannon Bream wrote the foreword. She's a sweetheart. Her particular instance, she didn't name in the foreword, but she's talked about it on the air and talked about it with me openly, that she had a problem with very severe dry eyes that was making her very depressed. And that is true. That happens to a lot of people. That ended up being overcome. And she's a spark plug. She's fantastic. What really inspired this book, I didn't think of it at the time I wrote the book. The book was an exploratory process for me. And in writing it, I learned things that I didn't even realize before. But what's not in the book that probably inspired it was that when my first son was born, I was like a lot of first-time fathers, kind of lost. Mother gets diverted attention to the newborn.
Oh, yeah.
Trying to find my way. I was walking down the street. I see a guy sitting there with a prayer book. He hands me the prayer book, and he says, pray for the health of your newborn son. I said, well, the only problem is you don't know I have a newborn son. I didn't tell you that. He says, I know. Gives me this prayer book, and I went and started becoming religious as a result.
Wow, that's incredible.
And that story is totally true. And it started me down a pathway, a lane. And the other thing that happened that I didn't put in the book, that will go in the sequel, is that when I was a young resident, we had a patient in the ICU who was a maitre d' at a restaurant, and he hit his head and he went into a deep coma from a traumatic brain injury, and he was thought to never be able to come out of that coma. He was going to be in the vegetative state. His family lined up at the bedside every single day praying for him, and they would say to whatever intern or resident was on duty, look, his heart rate's going up. Look, his blood pressure's going up. Look, his eyes are fluttering. And we would literally, and I don't want to say make fun of this family, but we would look at them, oh, here they go again. Here they go again. A jaundiced look. And that's what I thought the future of medical care for me was going to be, except that after 3 months, the guy suddenly woke up and recovered completely and went back to work at that restaurant, only now he wasn't a maitre d', he was a waiter. And that was it. But he pretty much returned to normal. And that taught me an incredible lesson of not giving up.
Well, and I just thought of this in real time here because we have another great story here from St. Louis, and it was just made into a major motion picture called Soul on Fire. And I don't know if you know the story of John O'Leary. Have you ever heard his story, Dr. Siegel?
No, I'll play host. You tell me the
story.
All right,
this is fascinating. So in the 1980s here in suburban St. Louis, he saw some kids playing with gasoline and fire, and he went into his garage, unbeknownst to his parents, and he's like 9 years old or 8 years old, and he lights himself on fire, and 90% of his body, and he is left for dead in the hospital. He's, in really bad shape. We have this amazing baseball legend here who passed away, Jack Buck, Joe Buck's father. Jack Buck gets wind of this story, starts visiting this young boy in the hospital, doesn't know him before this, starts visiting with him every single day. And John O'Leary credits Jack Buck with his survival and his story and his recovery. He's now on the speaking tour. He's written 2 books. The movie came out about 3 weeks ago. It didn't make a lot at the box office. It's going to be on Netflix in January. But John O'Leary's story would be wonderful for your sequel because it is really amazing. And there is a spiritual aspect to John as well. That there is definitely a spiritual aspect to his story. So I can hook you up with him. I think you'd really enjoy that conversation.
And that'll be fantastic. Maybe we'll do a duo on. I'll put him in as a chapter in the book. I'm looking for more and more of these. I'm in the process of accumulating them. I have a quick fire story to tell you that happened the other day. I was in a place in Riverhead, Long Island with my dear son, and it was closing time at the pizza place. Love this pizza place. Love this Italian restaurant. And we got the last 2 pieces of pizza left, or the last 3. And we're sitting there going to pay for it. A guy who had clearly had burns on his face comes up to the cash register and he says, "I'm paying for this pizza." And I go, "What are you talking about? I can afford a piece of pizza."
Yeah.
The guy said, "I was in a house fire and no one survived except for me and my girlfriend because I happened to smell smoke and I got us out of there, and tragically no one else survived. And ever since then," he said, "I'm giving back to God." And that's what he does. He goes around performing acts of beneficence, and that's kind of like
incredible.
we're God's vessel. We're God's vessels here on earth.
That really is amazing. And, you know, for a guy like me, this is where I have to admit, because I can be a little type A and get annoyed by little things. You know, we sit in traffic or whatever. I've been talking about this road closing that's near my house. You put things into perspective with what things, you know, with other people and what they've gone through. I've done this with Chris, Dr. Siegel, because, you know, I think about him and his head injury. He's still got a bullet fragment in his head. And you kind of have to put your life and your little annoyances in perspective compared to some of those things that happen that are far more serious to other people.
By the way, it's a whole bullet he has in his head.
Yeah.
And how dare you complain about the traffic in St. Louis? You should spend the day here. Forget about it.
It's non-existent. I understand. Hey, before I let you go, the book is really something I wanted to shine some light on. It's called The Miracles Among Us. But I know that you were talking yesterday. I have some deep concerns. You know, I have kids that are 28, 25, so they're adults. But I have a 10-year-old. And you were talking about the smartphones, and I've talked about this issue before. There are some serious warning signs out there for parents like me with these young kids with smartphones.
I think this is the best study of its kind yet. It looked at 10,000 kids between the ages of 12 and 13, and it said at the age of 12, about 2/3 of kids already have a smartphone, and they found that those that didn't have one were much less likely to be depressed or have sleeping problems or be obese. Then when they gave them the cell phones, and this is what really makes the study special, when they gave them the cell phones between the ages of 12 and 13, it reversed. You got more depressed. You had problems with sleep, and you gained weight because you're not exercising, because you're on there all night, because it's waking you up.
Right.
And everyone out there should know that those over 14, 90 to 95% of kids have cell phones. This is a train that's left the station, and it is barreling out of control.
And it's the parents, right? I mean, look, we all, I even heard when Sandra was talking to you about this, look, you could see that the parents are challenged because you want communication devices, you want to make sure your kids are safe, but you don't think about some of these long-term consequences, and that's where I'm a little concerned. I'll be honest with you, I have a little difference of opinion with my wife, you know, in our family on this particular issue. So I like seeing studies like this. It arms me with information and ammo.
By the way, even with all this going on, somebody like Sandra or somebody like you are great parents. I mean, that her kids are turning out great. Kids will turn out great anyway, but you have to. It increases the pressure on the parent to be more and more responsible and lead by example, involve kids in family matters. That's why Vivek Murthy, the former Surgeon General, came out with a really unexpected advisory when he said parents are suffering, parents are under stress, parents don't know what to do. So it's not just the kids.
Yeah,
it's
he's
also
right,
their
though.
parents.
He's absolutely right. Dr. Marc Siegel, the book is called The Miracles Among Us, How God's Grace Plays a Role in Healing. Is there also a Fox Nation special that people can tune into?
It is out. And the Fox Nation special focuses, I host it and I narrate it, and it focuses on 3 incredible stories, one from Sudan that you don't want to miss, one Bob Montgomery, our chief of surgery here at NYU, that survived 7 cardiac arrests and a heart transplant. He's incredible.
Wow.
And the inside look at Steve Scalise's story, Majority Leader Scalise, when he was shot on that ball field in 2017. An incredible inside view of that.
All right. Well, it's all great and perfectly timed for the holidays. Thank you so much for coming on here this afternoon. I'm going to get you John O'Leary's information. You're going to love that.
That'll be in the next one. I love Soul on Fire, a great title. We'll put him in there next to Chris.
All right. Awesome. Thanks, Dr. Siegel. Have a great holiday. We'll see you soon.
You too, Mark. Have a great holiday.
That was great. And I love what I've been hearing about the book. And he mentioned Steve Scalise. So if you go to Fox Nation and you watch the special, here's a little clip from that.
Dr. Wenstrup, who normally would have left earlier than that, decided to stay late for practice and was there to then be able to administer a tourniquet to save my life. You know, they initially were putting me in an ambulance. I wouldn't have made it there in rush hour traffic in Virginia. Every second, not every minute, every second counted. And so then all of a sudden a helicopter comes. God answered a lot of prayers that day.
Wow. You know, and he was shot, I think we referenced it, but he was shot during the practice for the congressional baseball game with the nutbag who was from around here, as I remember, from Southern Illinois. Rodney Davis was practicing that day. He was just about to take batting practice because he was still in Congress and was a member of the team. And it's a miracle that Steve Scalise survived that. So I want to check out. I've seen, Dr. Siegel promoting not only the book, which is why I wanted to get him on, but also the Fox Nation special. So it looks pretty good.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
We've got a stall eastbound 44 before 109, and it looks like the right lanes are blocked. Traffic a little slow through there. Southbound 270, slow pockets from Page on down to 21. Southbound 141 is really jammed. There was an accident north of 64 that caused a backup. Southbound 170 slowing south of Olive down through 64. We've got moderate volume northbound on either side of 70. Now 70 out of downtown, it's moderate volume in pockets all the way out through Wentzville. 6440 is heavier, but it's Kings Highway on out in pockets through the 70 split. Southbound 55 really slow through the construction zone just south of 44 down through Bates. Some volume eastbound headed for and crossing the Poplar Street Bridge, but not a parking lot. This report brought to you by Aspen Contracting, roofsbyaspen.com. Don't let cracked or missing siding leave your home vulnerable to St. Louis weather. Aspen Contracting has the crews and project managers ready to protect your home and restore its beauty. Call Aspen today for your free siding inspection, 636-465-1696. I'm Sue Thomas, and that's traffic on 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative. Are you thinking about retirement and starting to wonder, do we have enough money saved? Am I going to make it through retirement? Well, that's a serious question. So to me, what you do is you go out and you learn and you try to get a concept and understanding of how retirement works, how your money works in retirement as far as taxes go. When do you take Social Security? Well, that's what they do at Financial and Tax Architects. They teach a one-night, 2.5-hour class. It's free, but they go over some of this stuff. And it lets you see how they work and what they can do, because they will sit down and tailor a plan with you, having looked at everything you've got. But you're going to feel better just by learning. So go to fta-ria.com, reserve a seat, go to a class, and start feeling better about retirement.
Give something that means something. Roll up your sleeve at the Odyssey Blood Drive in partnership with the American Red Cross, December 16th through the 19th at multiple locations. Make an appointment in the Red Cross Blood Donor app or at redcrossblood.org. Enter sponsor code Odyssey for a drive near you.
You're listening to Leaf Filter Radio, and the guru of gutter protection himself, Chris Cunahan, is here to take your most pressing leaf-related questions and bring you a special Black Friday offer.
Hey, everybody, Chris here. I understand we have Ron on the line. Ron, where are you calling from?
Uh-oh. Ron, are you calling from a ladder?
Well, I was. I wanted to ask Chris what I need to do to get my gutters ready to have leaf filter installed.
Oh, Ron, you don't have to do anything. A Leaf Filter Trusted Pro will come out and clean out your gutters, realign and seal your gutters, and install Leaf Filter, America's #1 gutter protection system.
So I didn't need to get on this ladder?
Ron, Leaf Filter Trusted Pros are in your neighborhood and ready to help. Just visit leaffilter.com/radio to schedule your free gutter inspection and get up to 30% off.
Thank goodness. What was that site?
That's leaffilter.com/radio.
leafilter.com/radio. And now, as a special Black Friday offer, you can get a free gutter inspection, plus up to 35% off. This is our best offer of the season. Unlock it now at leafilter.com/radio. See representative for warranty details.
At Hardee's, every Tuesday is now Tender Bender Tuesday. Right now, download the Hardee's app and join My Rewards. Buy 3 hand-breaded chicken tenders, get 3 free. It's Tender Bender BOGO. Every Tuesday now through June 2026. This Tuesday, get 3 tenders, free. Next Tuesday, get them free. The Tuesday after that, you guessed it, free. Buy 3 tenders, get 3 free. Another great benefit for My Rewards members. Only at Hardee's. Registration and app required. Available for limited time at participating restaurants. See app for terms.
When you're learning something new, experience matters. At Lifestyles Unlimited, we've spent over 30 years teaching people how real estate investing works and how to build income with a clear, step-by-step strategy. Our program is designed to help you learn what to do, why it works, and how to take action at your own pace. Join today for just $297, a 60% savings off the regular price. Text radio to 88007. That's RADIO to 88007. Presented by Lifestyles Unlimited.
Swapping out your tires? There's nothing like it. With eBay, you can find the feel you're looking for, from smooth highway rides to grip for rough terrain. Get all the tires you need at prices you'll love. eBay, things people love.
This is the Mark Reardon Show on 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
Can you name the band, Sue?
I know it's Stax Records.
Booker T and the MGs.
Booker T.
And I'm playing this today because Steve Cropper died. Steve Cropper, a founding member of Booker T and the MGs. And you know him from different songs. I always like it when, well, I don't like it when people die like this, but I like to highlight folks who really played an important role in my musical foundation and probably some of you as well. So that's obviously a very popular song, but listen to this one. This was Sam and Dave in 1967 on Soul Man. Now you gotta listen here because they give him a little shout out, all right? I'll point it out here. Next one. There you go. Play it, Steve. So he gives him a little shout out there in that song. And then, and I mentioned I rewatched this movie. I feel like I can rewatch The Blues Brothers every couple of years. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. But he was in the touring band with the Blues Brothers and then in the Blues Brothers movie as well. So Steve Cropper lived down in Nashville, dead at the age of 84. There was a guy, and I don't know if I mentioned this the other day or not, but sometimes I get a little curious when I'm listening to songs, right?
Yeah.
And I'm sure you can probably do this on the other music services, but I mentioned I use Tidal, Tidal, and they so I'm pressing on something that's called credits, right? Because you can click on the credits, who wrote the song, who's playing on the song, and all this stuff. Well, I click on this thing, and I start looking at the name of the producer that's involved, right? So then I click on the producer's name, and his name is Roy Thomas Baker. I've never heard of him in my life that I'm aware of. But then I start looking at the songs that he produced for Queen, for The Cars, for Foreigner, for Journey, for David Bowie, for Cheap Trick, for Ozzy Osbourne, for the Stones, for Santana, for The Who, for Frank Zappa. And this guy, and then I found an interview. He passed away earlier this year at the age of 78. And I didn't, I might have even mentioned it at the time because I like to follow the music stories. But when I clicked on this guy's name, and here you have an example, Roy Thomas Baker, there's maybe one person in the audience, if that's ever heard of this guy. But his fingerprints are on all of these hits. And then I pull up an interview from him that he gave, before he passed away in a publication called Mix Online. And I've always been, I don't know about you, Sue, but I'm fascinated with the process of a singer-songwriter, musician, coming up with something, noodling around, coming up with a riff or some chords, and then saying, maybe this sounds better, maybe that sounds better, and then adding lyrics, and then having a producer come in and really transform that song into something magical. And what he said in this interview that I read is, he looked at it this way, because, some musicians, they produce themselves, right? He said, that's terrible. Think about if you're, it's like an attorney. You hire an attorney to represent yourself. Don't represent yourself in court,
Yeah,
go
get
with
the
the experts. Right.
professional.
And, he was hired to put another type of ear on it. And it was just really fascinating because I'm just blown away by the amount of songs and records that he produced.
I'll tell you what, if you go to Stax Records in Memphis and take a tour, you could see Booker G and they recorded there. Sam and Dave did some stuff, and I bet he's mentioned in there as well. It's a really cool museum.
Yeah, by the way, he did Bohemian Rhapsody.
Of
Okay,
course
he produced,
did.
and here, this is interesting. So in this interview, he says, Bohemian Rhapsody was totally insane, but we enjoyed every minute of it. It was basically a joke, but a successful joke. We had to record it in 3 separate units. We did the whole beginning bit, then the whole middle bit, then the whole end. It was a complete madness. The middle part started off being just a couple of seconds, but Freddie kept coming in with more Galileos, and we kept adding to the opera section, and it got bigger and bigger. We never stopped laughing. And, he even says it started off as a ballad. And by the end, it was like heavy, and it becomes one of the most legendary rock songs in history. But I love the way that, producers can do things that are just magical with songs that artists can't even do.
Yeah.
So if I had anything in my life, because I wanted to be, and I was in the music business in the 1980s for a while, but I've always had this fantasy because I think I have a good ear, and if I could learn a little bit, or if I could have back in the day learned how to be a sound engineer, I think I actually could have done that.
Oh,
because I have a
interesting.
little bit of a knack for that. But it makes me jealous, like filmmakers who can create, because you call them like goosebump moments,
Yeah.
right? Where you can create a piece of music or art or television or theater, whatever it is, where the audience reacts and says, wow, that is special. And that's what happens with a lot of these songs and with a lot of the performances in particular. All right, we're going to take a break. Michele Tafoya is on deck on the other side. I still have some great audio to share this afternoon, and we also have George Rosenthal. I mentioned this 60 Minutes piece that was on Sunday on Polymarkets. Not the biggest fan of the bias on 60 Minutes, but this was one that didn't have any politics mixed in, and it was really interesting. And George knows a lot about the Polymarket site. It's a gambling site where you can pick winners in politics, right? Not in sports. It's fascinating. It really is. And you can't and won't believe some of the things you can wager on. We'll get to that in the next hour.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
Some issues out there on the roads. If you're taking westbound 70, we've got slow pockets that go from Jennings Station Road all the way out through Wentzville. And it's just how it is. It was an earlier accident that caused that delay. 6440 is the same way. It's slow, heavy between approaching Kings Highway, but then it goes on pockets all the way on out. We've got northbound 61 slowing. There was an accident reported near W. We've got southbound 270 lined up. This is from Page. In pockets down through 55, southbound 170 slowing at 64, northbound slow on either side of 70. 55 is a slow go in the construction zone, headed down toward Bates. And we've got 44 westbound slowing in front of the Arch and some volume eastbound on the Poplar Street Bridge. I'm Sue Thomas, and that's traffic. 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
This is Kyle Bush with Crinch Financial Group. For over 6 decades, we've helped St. Louis families and businesses plan with purpose and live with confidence. Life changes, divorce, loss of a loved one, or an inheritance. It can be overwhelming. We provide the resources, long-standing support, and thoughtful guidance you need to plan ahead. With our help and experience, you don't have to navigate these transitions alone. You can move forward with greater clarity and confidence. Your goals, our mission. Start today at kfgadvisors.com.
Securities offered through Raymond James Financial Servicing. Member FINRA/SIPC. Prince Financial Group is not a broker-dealer.
It's time for you to get to know my friends at Lit Cigar Lounge in Chesterfield, where luxury meets comfort. Mark Cox here. They have a great selection of rare bourbons, whiskeys, craft cocktails, anything you like to drink, cold beer, premium hand-rolled cigars from the finest makers in the world, even private lockers that are available if you choose to. Perfect for date nights or business meetings, and live music every Friday night. Family owned and operated. Check them out in Chesterfield at the District. It's litstl.com.
We, without hesitation, recommend that anybody work with ThrottleNet. The experience will be as good as it's been for us, for anybody, because you'll get a true partnership and you'll be able to rest easy that you're going to get the service that you need, while they're also doing all those things that you don't want to have to think about, that you don't want to have to worry about. They're always doing that in the background for you.
Don't wait for your next IT crisis. If your business depends on technology, you need a partner that's got your back. Contact ThrottleNet.com to get a free IT evaluation and see how we can support your IT everything.
License number E2014A.
Hey, it's good to see you.
You know, there's a certain way we do things around here, the Grasser way.
The Grasser way?
We don't cut corners and we don't take shortcuts. Not on the little stuff and not on the big stuff.
We do the big stuff.
That's right. Whole home generators that kick on the moment the grid gives up. Lights stay on, heat stays on, your family stays safe, so your house stays warm.
And your ice cream stays frozen.
Green is always Grasser at GrasserHomeServices.com.
I hear from sellers all the time that they fear they have missed out on the selling market. They are so relieved to learn September, October, and November are strong selling months. With low inventory and hopefully lower interest rates, this fall will be a hot one for real estate. I'm Christina Straight, owner of Straight Realty. You may have heard me say, why pay more than 4 for years? Now it's why pay more than 2, saving you even more money. Call me 314-441-4444. And remember, why pay more than 2?
Straight Realty is a licensed broker in the state of Missouri, Kansas, and Nevada.
Your one blood donation can help save the lives of others. That's why the American Red Cross needs you. This holiday season, give something that means something. Make a difference in the lives of others by rolling up your sleeve and donating at the Odyssey Blood Drive in partnership with the American Red Cross from December 16th through the 19th at multiple locations. Make an appointment in the Red Cross Blood Donor app or at redcrossblood.org and enter sponsor code Odyssey for a drive near you.
KFTK FM Florissant from the Kaufman Townsley St. Louis's Injury Lawyers Studio. Call 314-777-7777.
That's 314-777-7777.
Hey, a reminder, because tomorrow's Friday, we have a Reardon Roundtable on deck. Should be a great panel. Jane will be here, Jeff Rainford, Tim Fitch, all on the panel. A lot of topics to toss around. That starts at 3 o'clock tomorrow afternoon.
An arrest in a pipe bomb plot from 2021 that targeted political headquarters. I'm Lisa Lacera, Fox News. The FBI says after a months-long investigation of old evidence, an arrest has been made.
Brian Cole Jr.'s cell phone pinged in the area of the RNC and DNC the night of the crime, January 5th, 2021. Authorities say bank receipts show that Cole purchased bomb-making materials in 2020 used to make those specific pipe bombs. The FBI agent spent hours at his home in Woodbridge, Virginia, a D.C. suburb. He's charged with transporting an explosive device in interstate commerce, as well as attempted malicious destruction by means of explosive materials. Authorities say search warrants are being executed. More charges could be on the way.
Fox's David Spahn, the motive for the plot has not been released, and it's not clear if there's any connection with the 2021 Capitol riot. A victory for the Trump administration in the effort to keep the National Guard in Washington, as a federal appeals court has paused a lower court order that would have ended the deployment a week from today. The judgment, though, is not final. Members of the House and Senate Intelligence Committees heard from the admiral who ordered the strikes on a reported drug boat off the coast of Venezuela in September. Admiral Frank Bradley briefed lawmakers in a secure room for about 4 hours. House Intel Committee ranking member Jim Himes says he watched the video of the incident and found it disturbing.
Any American who sees the video that I saw will see the United States military attacking shipwrecked sailors. Bad guys, but attacking shipwrecked sailors.
Senate Intelligence Committee Chair Tom Cotton.
What's disturbing to me is that millions of Americans have died from drugs being run to America by these cartels.
Senator Cotton says he believes these type of strikes will continue. Investigations into a series of mishaps by the Navy during a U.S.-led campaign against Yemen's Houthi rebels has found the stress of combat was a key factor. America is listening to Fox News.
The holidays mean more travel, more shopping, more time online, and more personal info in more places that could expose you more to identity theft. But LifeLock monitors millions of data points per second. If your identity is stolen, our US-based restoration specialists will fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Don't face drained accounts, fraudulent loans, or financial losses alone. Get more holiday fun and less holiday worry with LifeLock. Save up to 40% your first year with promo code NEWS. Visit lifelock.com. Terms apply.
Picture this, you're on a date, and then bad breath happens. Confidence gone. Here's the truth. Most gums and mints are just bad breath Band-Aids, but not Zellman's Minty Mouth. The functional breath freshener you swallow. Tiny dual-action capsules with mint on the outside, parsley seed oil inside, clinically tested to fight the toughest offenders, even garlic and onions. It's only available online. Go to Zellmans.com, Zelmins, Zellmans.com, code FRESH for 15% off.
Air Comfort Service, heating, cooling, and insulation, weather.
The full moon of December is tonight. It's known as the cold moon.
Boy, is that appropriate. Partly to mostly clear skies. We're going down to 12 degrees. No record, though, but it is really cold for this time of year. Friday, mostly sunny skies. Cold morning, 38 in the afternoon. Still well below average. Friday night, some clouds, 29. Saturday, partly sunny, 38. This is 97.1 FM Talk. Chief Meteorologist Dave Murray.
This hour of the Mark Reardon Show is sponsored by Gamma Tree Experts. Your trees deserve the best care. Call Gamma Tree Experts. This is the Mark Reardon Show on 97.1 FM Talk.
Well, still a lot of questions about the double tap, and then there's the Somali controversy in Minnesota. Here's the mayor of Minneapolis, Jacob Fry.
Our values and our commitment to the Somali community, to every community of immigrants and people in our city, is rock solid and will be unwavering. To our Somali community. Daman Shabka, Somalied Kunul, Minnesota, Garahan, Minneapolis, Waan, Ku Janila Hai, Waan, Ku Gereb Taganahan. We love you. We stand with you, and we aren't backing down.
I mean, that's the mayor speaking in Somali, and he is the mayor of Minnesota. I guess I don't even know how to react to some of this. You know, I just was under the impression that American taxpayers might take precedent over people who are here.
No, we love them.
Yeah, well, I guess so. Here's Tom Emmer, congressman, on Tim Walz.
Al-Shabaab controls all the financial infrastructure in Somalia. This money has gone back to Somalia. Ergo, common sense would tell you that millions of dollars, taxpayer dollars from Minnesotans, has gone to terrorists known as Al-Shabaab in Somalia. This is an awful situation. Tim Walz should be held accountable.
Michele Tafoya is back with us, the host of the Michele Tafoya podcast. Your city in the news quite a bit here. How are you this afternoon, Michele?
I'm cold. I'm really, really cold. It's 14 degrees outside. It was -3 this morning when I took the dog out. But other than that, everything's groovy.
We got a little chillier than usual in St. Louis right now too, so we feel your pain. So this story with the Somalis, though, it's not something that's brand new. I mean, I think a lot of people think it's brand new because of some of the reporting here in the last week or so. But this is something that some folks up in your neck of the woods have been tracking for a while. But when you hear the details and the specifics and the numbers of billions of dollars that were involved here, it's quite stunning, isn't it?
It is, and the thing about this story is even though we knew about it, we called it the Feeding Our Future story, which really was the first layer of this story to break, and that's been within the last couple of years. And that was, during COVID, these people set up these false fronts and said, we're going to feed all these kids, and they took to the tune of $250 million of federal funds that was being, given to Minnesota to deal with COVID. And no kids were fed, maybe a couple, but, no kids. There were 78 people indicted on that fraud. I think 76 of them were from the Somali community. So this is disproportionately one community committing this crime. Then we had the autism fraud on top of it and a affordable housing fraud on top of that. And I'm hearing, because I interview a lot of politicians here in Minnesota, that this is just the tip of the iceberg. All of it happening under Tim Walz, who is saying, I take responsibility for putting people in prison. He's not the one putting people in prison. All of these people have been prosecuted by federal prosecutors, meaning the United States government, not Minnesota's. And so for Tim Walz to try to take some sort of credit, it's what he always does. It's like stolen valor. He's taking credit for arrests and jailings that he had nothing to do with. So this is really bad. It's embarrassing. And supposedly people tried to warn Kamala Harris and she didn't listen.
So that's another. I'm glad you brought that up because I heard a little discussion about this last night. And that's interesting because every time I hear, and I'm sure you have the same reaction, we hear more and more of this goofy stuff from Tim Walz. You kind of sit back and say, well, maybe part of me says, thank God that she picked him. But you're like, what? Really? Did they vet that dude for 1 minute? Or did they just
that's
throw
what
a dart?
Wanted. Yeah.
Right. It's unbelievable.
Well, Maybe it is what they wanted. It's hard to imagine. I mean, to me, when she picked him, it was the end of her campaign from my vantage point, having lived in Minnesota under Tim Walz for all these years. I knew this was a bad choice. I thought, well, okay, she just sealed the deal. Not that she was any winning candidate to begin with, but she really sealed her fate with this choice. So, yeah, and it was amazing, all the propaganda that was thrown at us by the Democrats, that this was the candidacy of joy. Do you remember that word when it came out?
Of course.
Everybody parroted it. This is joy. And then Tim Walz was this appropriate kind of masculinity. That was the other talking point that went out. I was like, what are these people talking about and why? Like, what does that have to do with whether or not he's a good candidate for this job? So it's all, again, and what the Democrats are very, very good at, what I've seen time and time again, it's a pattern. I think we all can acknowledge that, is that they project back onto their opposition the things that they themselves do. So it's what's going on now, and it's hard for me to imagine how Tim Walz is going to get out of this one, but then again, I wouldn't be shocked if he does.
Michele, on the Somali community in general, so we have a pretty big Bosnian community here in St. Louis that's grown over the years, a very important part of the city. And, I think people were happy to have them here. So we hear, and maybe there is something to this, that you're denigrating, or President Trump, they're denigrating an entire group of people when there's only a small number of people that are involved here. What would your reaction be to that?
Well, there have been people from the Somali community that have said, please notice what's going on. There have been people from within the Somali community that want to assimilate and want to be part of this great country and be part of the progress and the freedoms and the liberties that we all hold dear. But I think there's also a big part that obviously doesn't give a damn about us. And they show it all the time. I mean, the other thing that gets ignored a lot is Ilhan Omar, who, is from Somalia, how she constantly gets in front of her constituents and says, I'm doing this for Somalia. She does not do any of her federal work for America. She does it for Somalians and Somali. And she says it out loud, and people ignore it again, I think, for the same reason that this scandal got ignored. They're afraid of being called names. They're afraid of being called Islamophobes and racists, because that is the playbook. Jacob Fry, our mayor of Minneapolis, throws that at us. Oh, you're denigrating all of our neighbors. What about the neighbors who got ripped off, Jacob?
Well,
what about all the taxpayers in Minnesota? What about the empathy for them whose money you have stolen and sent to foreign countries? What about them? So I think that no one in Minnesota, very few people in Minnesota are willing to say that out loud, because they have been punished with the name calling in response whenever people have said it out loud.
One of the things about, maybe there is a distinction, because one thing that I've always said, and I feel strongly about, and I think this has become part of the immigration discussion even more so in the past couple of months, is we want immigrants that will, seek the American dream, but we'd also like some assimilation. And with the Bosnian community here in St. Louis, I would argue there's a lot of assimilation. Now, this has happened over the course of, decades, but that's part of the problem. When you inject like 100,000 Somalis into Minnesota, they're not exactly trying to absorb our culture. They're living with their culture, and they have a congresswoman who wants to support them being Somalian more than Americans.
Well, I was talking to a young woman today who is, she's working class. She's working her tail off just to kind of live her life. And she's a physical therapist. And she said to me, why do we have the call to prayer in Minneapolis? And in fact, there are certain campuses, college campuses in Minnesota, that play the call to prayer. And, it is interesting because it's a very public sound. It's a very public cry. And some people would say, well, we ring church bells. Generally, I hear church bells ring in celebration of a wedding, or maybe they mark the hour. In fact, I used to live in a neighborhood where the church bells rang, and I loved it, and then the city forced them to stop. So it's really interesting how we really only see, it seems like, we want to accommodate so many small groups. And this goes with a lot of things in America and in Minnesota in general. We want to accommodate the people that we say are marginalized, but then we are really disenfranchising a lot of people. And so many of them are afraid to say it out loud because they just want to go along to get along. They don't want to be called names. And that's really unfortunate. People ought to be able to bring these things up if they're uncomfortable with them or if they disagree with them. But you are absolutely shunned if it's stuff or you find discomfort with it. You're called a name. And so that's what's really, it's got to change. It's got to change. People, we are a country built on freedom, and the first one is freedom of speech. And that doesn't mean everyone has to agree with you, but people have to have the courage to say, I don't care if you call me a name. I'm done. Call me whatever name you want. I can withstand that because I know who I am. I'm going to stand up for what I believe in.
Absolutely. Michele Tafoya, she hosts the Michele Tafoya podcast. We've talked, and I know that you've been very active on social media and on your podcast about the gender issue. Did you see the Free Press? I was supposed to have Lears up here on today, but this footage that the Free Press got, it's getting some, I think, exposure today, to use an interesting word there, that you have gender doctors acknowledging that they performed these life-altering procedures on young kids with no evidence, and they're kind of proud of it. I mean, this is something Jamie Reed talked about here in St. Louis, almost 3 years ago, and we've known this, and I've talked about it, but then when you see this and the evidence that they're producing at the Free Press in Lear, it's even more stunning.
I haven't seen it yet, but I have seen enough in terms of photographic data and other where kids are getting mutilated, and I don't. That is a word I'm comfortable using.
Yeah, me too. I am too.
You look up mutilation in the dictionary, folks, and these are kids, and we don't let kids get tattoos, and we don't let kids do a lot of things. You know why? Because they're kids and their brains aren't fully developed until they're about 25 years old, and yet a medical professional is comfortable telling a parent, would you rather have a living son or a dead daughter or vice versa? And let me do this. And I will also hold parents accountable in this. Doctors don't know everything. And before you ever put a drug in your kid for this kind of thing, or if they have gender dysphoria, start with talk therapy. See, you know what? And you may find that, in fact, they are gay, they are trans, whatever. But start there. Why would you inflict this bodily damage on these kids who may come out on the other end of 25 and say, good God, what have I done? I've had numerous detransitioners on my show, on the podcast, who say that that's what they went through. And they have unbelievable regret. And it is tragic to me that some of them, they can't have kids. They know they will never look like they were supposed to look. It's awful.
Well, and luckily those stories are being shared a little bit more now, even in some of the legacy media outlets, because the momentum on this and you can't deny the abuse anymore. And they've tried. And this is more information from Lear on his reporting at the Free Press that indicates that. Anything else, Michele, you want to promote on the podcast right now?
Oh, gosh, we every Wednesday is kind of my favorite day. We do Wild Card Wednesday, where we go around the internet and we show you things and we play sound of people who are kind of making outlandish statements, and we call them on it, or we show you things that are really great. And so every Wednesday we do. These are short, very digestible episodes. You can watch them, you can listen, and you'll get a good smattering of what's trending on X or Instagram. And we have a lot of fun with it. So you can go back and listen to the entire library.
I think I saw you a couple of times recently on the CNN panels at night, didn't I?
Not CNN. I've not done CNN.
I thought I did see you on CNN.
No, I do Gutfeld quite a bit.
That was it. Okay, it must have been Gutfeld. Here's what's funny. I'll tell you what happened there. This is how my brain works. So my wife has never been that into politics, right? She's known that I've done politics and talked about politics my whole life. But all of a sudden last year, she started watching Fox at night. And I don't even watch Fox at night, Michelle. I like go home and I got to tune out, right? I'm going to watch football tonight. But she loves Gutfeld. So I'm downstairs, and this is exactly what happened. I come up, and she's watching Gutfeld, and you were on that night, and that's where I saw it. I tend to check out CNN because my buddy Scott Jennings is out there keeping that panel straight, which, by the way, if you have not had Scott on your podcast, you should do that, and I can hook you up because he's a good friend.
Hey, look, we're all part of the Salem family, and I've been with Scott on his show, and I love him too.
Yeah, he's amazing. He really is. He's a dear friend, and I forgot that you're part of the Salem Network as well, Michelle. That's my bad.
Yeah. I bought his book. I bought it audio, so I'm listening to Scott every day.
I bought the damn thing too. You know, I $34 I told him. He said, thanks, Biden. He told me to blame Biden on inflation. Michele Tafoya, check out the Michele Tafoya podcast. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, take care.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
Well, thank you to producer emeritus Dave Klein, who says, watch out for, unfortunately, a dead animal. It's westbound 44 in the far right lane before the exit lane going to 141. So be careful through there. And we've got just a little bit of a slowdown on 44, but it's mainly coming out of downtown. Now, 55 is slowing south of Arsenal down through Bates. We've got 6440 lined up approaching Kings Highway. Now, this goes in pockets all the way out to an accident really close to Prospect. And 70 westbound slow pockets from Jennings Station Road on out through Highway A, a little slow west of Wentzville as well. Southbound 270 slow pockets. This is approaching Olive down through 21. Southbound Interbelt traffic slow from Olive through 64. And eastbound 64 is slow from almost McKnight now through Big Bend, but it looks fine at the Poplar. I'm Sue Thomas, and that's traffic on 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
This report is sponsored by McKelvey Homes.
Hi, I'm Jim Brennan at McKelvey Homes. Have you always wished for a brand new home in an established neighborhood? Select one of our move-in ready custom homes throughout St. Louis, or we will build on your lot. Visit McKelveyHomes.com and move up to McKelvey.
Want to introduce you to the team at Michael's Baths. Mike Gower, his daughter Melody, will likely answer the phone call when you call Michael's Baths. All they do is bathrooms. They use American-made products. You're going to have 5-star reviews on Google and an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau. And you can do a bathroom project, maybe an entire remodel. Maybe you're making a tub into a shower. Maybe you're making a shower safer. As we get a little older, they can do all that stuff. They have these non-slip surfaces where you don't need those non-skid shower stickers. So that's a good thing in and of itself. If you mention my name with Michael's Baths right now, get a free shower door or $500 off of your project. His installers, Tony and Mark, have been with the company for a decade plus. They love what they do. They know what they're doing, and they're going to give you outstanding customer service. The other thing I like to mention is they work with customers who are approved by the VA for a grant that could pay for most of the project. So check them out, michaelsbaths.com, or call 636-775-0800.
New tax resolution firms are popping up every day with high-paid celebrity endorsers, advertising ridiculous claims in their TV ads. That's why they have the tiny, unreadable disclaimers at the bottom of the screen. Hi, this is Lance Drury with the Lance Drury Law Firm. Our ads never have those ridiculous, fast-talking, tiny disclaimers at the end because, simply put, there are no guarantees when it comes to the IRS and wiping out tax bills. And we don't make promises we can't keep. Of course, there are ways the Lance Drury Law Firm can help resolve your tax debt, but no company can guarantee it will eliminate it. This is why their clients call the Lance Drury Law Firm when those promises don't pan out. If you have tax problems, you have legal problems, call me, Lance Drury in St. Louis, at 314-260-6120 or visit Lance, D-R-U-R-Y, law.com to schedule your free consultation with your local tax resolution law firm.
The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely upon advertisements.
For 100 years, KMOX has been part of St. Louis. Now, Together Credit Union is helping celebrate that legacy. Starting in November, visit any Together Credit Union branch to pick up a KMOX 100th Anniversary commemorative ornament for just $5 while supplies last. Each ornament supports Children's Miracle Network of Greater St. Louis. Together Credit Union, honoring 100 years of KMOX. the voice of St. Louis, and Children's Miracle Network of Greater St. Louis, improving the health of all children.
You've been listening to the very popular Wellness One for many years, Saturdays and Sundays on 97.1 FM Talk. We're happy to share that we've expanded the show to 4 times a week. Yes, 4 times every weekend. Saturday at 10 a.m., Saturday at 8 p.m., Sunday at 9 a.m., and Sunday at 2 p.m. It's the same great show designed to cut through the nonsense and provide you a common sense, science-based strategy for a healthy life. So join TJ and Aaron for Wellness One. Now 4 times a week on 97.1 FM Talk.
Back to Mark Reardon, because someone's got to say it out loud. 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis conservative.
I really was looking forward to having Leo Arsef here on. He has been a guest many, many times on my show. And this is a story, I haven't done this yet, but we can certainly do an experiment with how much coverage this is getting. But there was an amazing story that cleared right around this time yesterday, I think, in the Free Press by Leor. And it was about this gender-affirming care nonsense that, sadly, people here in St. Louis have bought into. This Ben Hochman guy who's at the Post-Dispatch, sports columnist, he blocked me on Twitter. I can't communicate with him anymore. He didn't like my opinions because he feels very strongly, Ben does at the Post-Dispatch, which most people who cover sports journalism, which is stunning, outside of Michele Tafoya and, Sage Steele and some of these Sam Ponder, they're the ones that are saying. But these are people that feel that kids should be mutilated. And, he asked me one time, Ben Hochman said, what would you do if you had a daughter or a son that was confused about their gender? I said, well, I tell you what I wouldn't do. I wouldn't hop them up on puberty blockers right away because that is freaking insanity. And he thinks that that's fine. And there are a lot of people out there, these lefties, what are you doing? The kids, they can decide what they want to do, right? There's a law, I just found this today, that, where the hell is this? Somebody sent this to me, where you have to, you can't even need, or you don't need or require parental permission if you're over the age of 12 to do some of these things. I'm going to have to find this story because I'm not communicating it well, and I'm communicating it while I'm trying to think of Leor's piece here. I'll get back to that in a second. But listen to this story because this is pretty serious, and there's video and audio that goes along with this, and I think we may have Leor on tomorrow. The story in the Free Press starts this way. At their conferences closed to outsiders and the press, the gender clinicians allowed themselves to speak freely. They spoke about the boys who said they wanted to be girls and the girls who felt that they were meant to be boys and the medical and the surgical interventions that would make them appear as the opposite sex. The clinicians also discussed new procedures for a new type of patient, some of them adolescents who wanted to be made to look as if they had no sex at all. In one of the videos obtained by the Free Press from 2021, this was the conference of the U.S. Professional Association for Transgender Health, Amy Pinkin is a social worker at the Transgender Health Program at the Oregon Health and Science University. First of all, there should be no transgender health programs at any university in the country, but of course there are, spoke about one such case. Pinkin told the audience about someone named Sky, who she described as an 18-year-old recent high school graduate who was living on his own for the first time. Pinkin explained that Sky expressed a desire to look like a, quote, Barbie down there. Sky, Pinkin said, reported, quote, being asexual, never having had sex, having no desire to have sex in the future. Indeed, Leo writes, Sky did not want to feel any pleasurable sensation and hoped removal of all erogenous tissue would be possible, according to Pinkin. Now, Leo says not so long ago, a patient like Sky would have been given a psychological evaluation and offered mental health counseling because that's what's appropriate in that particular situation. But in this world of gender medicine and insanity, which was, really cultivated here in St. Louis at WashU and Children's Hospital in a very shameful, and I would still argue criminal way. I think there should be criminal prosecutions for what these physicians did to their patients. But Pinkin explained to fellow professionals that requests for procedures that are, quote, non-binary are growing in number. Now, again, this is 2021. But the field is still wedded to binary assumptions. This means that procedures such as nullification, that leaves patients with no external genitals, or penile-preserving vaginoplasty, surgically crafting a pseudo-vagina underneath the penis, are not as accessible as they should be. Pinkin said that when confronted with a patient like Sky, existing, quote, research and, quote, standards of care are, quote, not enough to meet the needs of our patients, And we need to take it to the next level to really think about how we evolve and match the needs of our patients as their needs are being expressed to us. So that's unbelievable, because I thought that you would go to a doctor to solve a medical issue. If you're sick, if you think you have something wrong, the doctor then prescribes something to fix you. But in this particular case, it's very different. This is where the patient goes to the doctor creating an issue that really doesn't even exist and asks for a solution. Now, that sounds crazy, right? And again, it is crazy. And what most doctors would do who are responsible, they would say, and Jamie Reed is such a perfect example of this, they had someone come into WashU that was having sex or wanted to have sex with dogs. The reaction was not to say, that's a little weird, maybe we should get this kid some help. The reaction was to take his penis off or to add a vagina. That's insanity. And that's what's happening across the country. And some of this is still happening. So one of the colleagues, as Leo writes in this piece in the Free Press, someone identified as Mary, but her name is Marsiglio. She's a psychologist. She tells the conferees that it's important to reframe the role of the mental health person or the psychologist as a collaborator rather than a gatekeeper. That meant, she explained, making sure that patients with serious mental health problems, such as multiple personalities and psychosis, are not excluded from gender surgery just because the team is uncomfortable operating on them. Did you hear what she just said there? She said, basically, if a psychologist thinks that the person has a psychological problem, including psychosis, that doesn't matter. We're still going to cut off their boobs. It's insane. And, you know, I can go to the New York Times. I can go to the Washington Post. I can go to the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. I can go to any legacy outlet, and they won't have anything about that report in the Free Press. Now, Barry Weiss runs CBS News right now.
Yeah.
We haven't heard a lot of Barry in the last couple of months. She's still getting her footing. But why in the hell, and there should be, would there not be a story on CBS News about that issue? Show these videos. Play the audio. That's what the media needs right now.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
Well, we've got a new accident, and this one is on northbound 270 at Olive. They've got the two right lanes and the right shoulder blocked, and traffic, of course, is stacking up quickly behind this. Right now, it's all the way back through, really, Manchester. Heaviest back through the Clayton Road overpass. Now, southbound 270, already moderate volume in that area from Page in pockets down through 55. Southbound 170 slowing south of Olive through 64. We've got westbound 44 with an accident reported near Kings Highway. 6440 slow pockets. Now, this is approaching Kings Highway, but it's in pockets all the way out through 70. 70 a little lighter, but it's got slow pockets out of downtown to past Wentzville as well. And 55 is really slow tonight in the construction zone up north. It's not as bad in the Herculaneum area. If you are on westbound 44, it's slowing in front of the Arch grounds. But we look good if you're headed into Illinois on the Poplar Street Bridge. I'm Sue Thomas, and that's traffic on 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
I was talking about the Missouri Athletic Club, and the holidays are a very special time to be around the MAC. And, you know, we just had Guns N' Hoses last week. They have this great event which takes place at the MAC, and I think that the reservations just opened up today. Yeah, today's Thursday. So the MAC Boxing Championship is coming up, and you can reserve a table right now. Registration, of course, is required, and you can do that through the MAC app, but that's kind of cool, and they do it right at the downtown location. I'd like to kind of attend one of those. They have all kinds of holiday events going on at both the West and the downtown location. And then this past Tuesday was Giving Tuesday, and the MAC Historic Preservation Fund supports the maintenance and the preservation and the restoration of the downtown clubhouse. So there were a lot of generous folks who gave on Tuesday, and if you didn't, it's not too late to give to the MAC Historic Preservation Fund. You can find out more at mac-stl.org for the Missouri Athletic Club.
Is your home ready for the holidays? Beat the holiday rush. Call Zero Res. Spots are filling up fast, so don't put it off any longer. Lock in your deal today at ZeroResSTL.com, and happy holidays from all of us at Zero Res.
You've got your whole life ahead of you, so choose a Medicare plan you can count on. And that's what you get with a Medicare Advantage plan from United Healthcare. With more than 45 years' experience serving its members, United Healthcare has plans with low monthly premiums that fit your life today and as your needs change tomorrow. The Medicare annual enrollment period ends December 7th, so go to uhc.com/Medicare today. United Healthcare Medicare plans. It's Medicare coverage Missouri can count on.
Let Banner Construction show you what a difference James Hardy can make to your home. Banner's exterior design team will show you custom design options to transform your home into the neighborhood showplace. Banner is a preferred James Hardy and Pella Windows specialist. With winter, now is the time to think about Pella Windows for energy efficiency and comfort. Call Banner Construction 314-569-1050 to schedule your free in-home consultation, or the website bannerconstruction.com, and have a banner day.
This is attorney Todd Nissenholtz of Kaufman Townsley, and this is the sound of our attorneys walking into court. Because when an insurance company offers a lowball settlement, we go to trial, prepping endlessly, interviewing witnesses. We know the loss and the cost of an accident, and when it's needed, we go to war for you and take the fight to the insurance company, because we've been in your shoes. Kaufman Townsley, real people, real results. Call 314-777-7777.
If you're trying to sell a home, there's only one agent in town that I trust, Mark and Neil Gelman of eXp Realty. My friends Mark and Neil have the best system to connect you to the best qualified buyers, getting your home sold fast and for top dollar. 314-336-1991. Go to thegelmanteam.com.
It's time for a $98 furnace tune-up.
This portion of the show is sponsored by Jerry Kelly, heating, air conditioning, electrical, and plumbing.
25 years strong. 97.1 FM Talk. St. Louis Conservative.
So while I'm not on the 60 Minutes bandwagon as much as I was back in the day when it felt like an important must-see television program, because I hate the bias that has been injected, in particular from Bill Whitaker on St. Louis covering Kim Gardner, I still watch. You know, it comes on after football, and I'm curious about some of the stories. And I will say that Anderson Cooper did this amazing story about poly markets on Sunday.
Define that for me, please.
It is, well, here, I'm going to play a little soundbite from what they said on Sunday, and then I'll have George Rosenthal. But this is where you can place, I talk about underdog fantasy. We have wagering that's now legal in Missouri. You can place wagers on political races and all kinds of things.
This is the main page for Polymarket. Polymarket's users bet on all kinds of questions. Fed decision, Bolivia presidential election. Will Taylor Swift get married this year? When will there be a ceasefire in Ukraine? Who will win the 2028 election? And how accurate is it?
It's the most accurate thing we have as mankind right now, until someone else creates some sort of super crystal ball.
So somebody, and I might get the number wrong, I thought it was 700,000, but it was a significant amount of money. They featured in this story, somebody won that much money picking J.D. Vance way early for vice president, because in their mind, they knew that Trump liked one-syllable names or something like that.
What?
And they were looking at the other alternates, and they weren't one-syllable names, and Vance kind of fit perfectly, and they rolled a bunch of money down and won a ton of money on that. I mean, that's freaking weird, right?
Wow.
So you can do things on here that I find somewhat interesting and fascinating, but it opens up a whole nother can of worms.
Yes, it does.
George Rosenthal from ThrottleNet is with us. He knows a little bit about this, and we welcomed him back into the fray here this afternoon. Hi, George. How are you?
Good. Thanks so much for having me on. And yes, for a $4,000 bet, he won $700,000.
Isn't that amazing? And
yeah,
it was
because he knew how Trump marketed himself, and he knew that Trump did not want any more syllables in his own name because it would take away from his name, and that was an unbelievable bet.
Isn't that crazy?
Wow.
Yeah. So Shane Copeland is the guy that you heard in there, and I thought he was fascinating. And he talked about how he said there it's the most accurate thing we have as mankind right now until someone else creates some sort of super crystal ball, because the poly market is a pretty good indication of how the wind is blowing.
Sure, because you're putting real money down. So, you go to a pollster and a pollster calls you in your house, you're going to tell them whatever you think you want to hear to get them off your phone or out of your face. This is real money. This is people putting down money. And full disclosure, I put $700 down on the system Kalshi, and I made almost $3,000. And so I bet on Trump way early. I put $700 down and made $3,000 on Kalshi. So it is real. It's different, though, than regular sports betting. So you're not betting against the house, so to speak. So all of the questions are either yes or no. So it's very binary. You have a yes or no choice. If you win, you're taking the money of those who were wrong. So the house is specifically just getting a transaction fee, kind of like a brokerage house. So when you buy a stock, you know, so-and-so brokerage house takes a fee. And then, of course, if you sell your stock, you're going to get the money, but they also take another fee on the sell. Same thing happens here. So you're not betting against the house. You're betting on basically what you think is going to happen. But the odds are in real time, and it changes so quickly. And the things you can bet on are unbelievable. You can bet on the weather in some areas. You can bet on the categories are unreal, like geopolitics, tech. For instance, if you click on tech, you can bet on when SpaceX is going to launch the next rocket and what the payload may be. You can bet on anything you can possibly imagine. Now, keep in mind, this is gambling. I mean, you're betting, and if you lose your money. So you got to be really careful with this. But to give you a real-world example, right now, Maduro in Venezuela, there's a bet right now. Yep. Do you think Maduro will be out by December 31st? That's a yes or no. Or do you think he'll be out by March 31st? So the wager right now, if you put $100 down and you say he'll be out by March 31st, you'll win $230 or $243. So you'll be up $143 on a $100 bet if you think Maduro's out by March. Now, the one that's really fascinating is the House of Representatives in 2026. So the Republican Party is down 22% to 78% Democrat. And if you put $100 right now on the Republican Party and they do keep the House, you'll win $434. So you'll be up $334 on a $100 bet right now.
Yeah.
And obviously, as that gets closer, then everything starts to change. That's why these polls are going to be null and void. You have hedge funds and major markets now analyzing these poly markets because it's real money and people are analyzing and doing the research before they put the bet down. So this is a heck of a lot more accurate than any poll will be. And right now there's two major, players. It's Kalshi, Kalshi, and of course Polymarket, that just got valued at $9 billion on the marketplace. So it's fascinating.
So what is the legality of this right now? When you say you do this, now we have sports wagering that finally became, legal. It's been a long haul. But, you even have weird things, and I have to check this out. I'm a big horse racing guy, right? Well, the sports wagering is different. I was blocked last year, the last couple of years, from using an app that I used for years, betting on the Kentucky Derby and other horse races, because they shut it down and they wouldn't allow it here in Missouri. So there are particulars, and they shut you down, and they, I think Polymarket even had to move some of these things offshore to make it legal for them to produce the winnings, et cetera. But how does it work for the wagers?
Yes, so they did get pushed offshore, but they just now came back on, and because Trump administration is all in favor of this. So Eric Trump has now put $10 million into Polymarket, and he was already on the board and an investor in Kalshi. So they are full on in, which is why this is now given full licensure. And here's how it works. You're not betting, again, against a house. You're buying shares. And this is how they got around the loophole initially. You're buying shares in a potential stock that you can then sell once the decision comes down.
Yeah.
And your winnings are technically called a dividend.
Yes. Okay.
So that's how they got around this whole thing. That was prior to it being legal, which then, of course, during the Biden administration, they didn't like that. So they kicked Polymarket out of the country and fined him $1.4 million or something like that. And they raided his house with the FBI and so forth. But the way this is it's considered you're buying a share of stock in this particular wager. It's kind of a kind of a gray area, Mark.
So they say that $3.6 billion was wagered on the question of who is going to be the next president of the United States. And what was interesting is, the polling was very close in the final month of the campaign. We didn't know what was going to happen. The Polymarket was very clear, though, because when the pollsters were saying too close to call, Polymarket said 70-30 for Trump. Now, what he said, Mr. Copeland said the other night, that doesn't mean that 70% of the people are voting. It's not like a poll. It's going to say who's going to win. So 70% of people think that Trump's going to win, and they were the winners. So it is a little different than polling, and that's why maybe it's a little bit more accurate.
Absolutely, yes. And there's real money behind it. Now, of course, Mark, with everything good or anything kind of fun, if you want to bring some fun into politics or geopolitics, anything fun always comes to negatives. Of course, you have betting on disasters. Okay, right now there's bets out there right now as to when is the next California wildfire and how much damage will it cause. There's things out there about tragedies. When's the next school shooting? There's all kinds of, there's more than 10,000 active bets on just Polymarket. That doesn't even count Kalshi. So there is a downside because you're able to put wagers on very, very bad things happening and basically make money from it. So, yes, there are bad things. I think a lot of that will be regulated as this goes along because you'll incentivize people to put down large bets and then go out and commit something heinous in order to make that money, kind of like the insider NBA and the insider gambling thing going on right now in sports.
Yeah.
I think this could start something like that. So keep an eye on regulation on these poly markets. I just because of the negative things that can be bet on. But, otherwise, it's a lot of fun. It makes politics and geopolitics a little more interesting when you have a couple $100 down and you're waiting to see what happens. But
I've never done this, and I sports wager quite a bit, and I did quite well on Albert Pujols in the home run chase a couple years ago. My wife and I, my friend in Las Vegas, we got in on that with some really great odds, and thankfully he hit as many home runs as he did. But I've never messed around with anything like this, and as much as I feel I know about wagering, this kind of caught me off guard when I saw the story the other night. And I love this kid, Shane Copeland, who was featured. These tech guys are very unique. He didn't seem as awkward as some of the tech guys, and he had a really good personality. But his story is amazing. He goes to New York University. His freshman years, when COVID hits, he drops out and he basically says, I'm going to launch something called Polymarket as a place for people to bet on current events. Actually, I don't know if he dropped out, but COVID hit and he was looking for something, I guess, to do, and that's when he came up with it.
You guys, what's the downside? What's the downside of this, right? I mean, people are cheating in sports and doing small things.
That's what he just said. You could be.
Could people really do that, though? I mean, really, would they do it for this?
Yeah, because hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Is wildfires. Yeah. I mean, if you've put a bunch of money down and there's wildfires and you have somebody go out and set a fire, I mean, then there are some dangerous areas for it, but it's fascinating what you can bet on. The number one YouTube streamer in the world, obviously, is Mr. Beast. You can go out and bet on different videos that he's about to produce.
Good
grief. Any topic you can think of. 10,000 plus more bets out there.
Yeah, it says, so there's 15 categories: politics, culture, sports, finance. Within each, there are questions, around 10,000. With events for people to bet on.
10,000.
Yeah.
Boy,
that are all yes and no. I bet no only.
I bet there's one about Pete Hegseth right now.
I'm sure
Will
there
Pete
is.
Hegseth still be the war secretary by the end of the year? There's probably stuff because they keep it pretty current with events as well.
Oh, absolutely. It's all in real time. And what's wild is even if you don't put $1 in, it's fascinating to turn it on once a day and just look at how the odds and the percentages are changing on certain topics. And then if you watch mainstream news and then compare it to what you're seeing on this app, it's fascinating. It really is. It's something fun to do. You're having your cup of coffee and you want to check out what's going on in the world. You can see what humanity is betting on, and this is global. I mean, you can bet on Irish elections and elections and happenings in Great Britain and Australia and all over the world. So it really is something neat to see, and then compare it to what you're hearing on the news.
But it's easy to hook up. Like, you have no issues with a bank account and depositing money.
Yeah.
Okay. Everything is allowed there.
Yeah, and I was a little shaky at first. Kalshi was brand spanking new. This was during the last election, but I did it, and it was not a problem at all. It was very secure, all encrypted. I, deposited $700 just to see what would happen, and I was way early in on the election, and it ended up winning just under 3,000. It was like $2,900. I mean, it was pretty fascinating to see. But I'll tell you what, it sure made election night even more exciting. When you're looking at your bet, trying to see what actually happens. So,
wow.
I only do that just for fun, and that's what the whole part of this is to make it a little more entertaining. It's always fun to put a little money on the Broncos and hope that they can pull it out. And this year they have.
All right,
So-
give you some let me give you a real-time opportunity here. If you will send me $700, seem to have that, you can bet on what the audio cut of the day will be here in about 5 minutes.
Ooh,
And
there you
I'll
go.
send you my
Ah,
Venmo,
good.
and you make the pick, and we'll see if you cash out on those odds. Okay, George?
All right, I like it.
Hey, this is fascinating. Thank you so much. This was great stuff. I appreciate
Absolutely.
it. Okay, take
Absolutely.
care.
Great talking to you guys.
George Rosenthal from ThrottleNet.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
Man, if you've got a gambling issue.
Well, no, Sue, yeah. I mean, as someone who is a proponent of this, there are things that I'm uncomfortable with right now.
Yeah.
There really are.
And the disaster thing is terrible.
Well, that's why there has to be some
The
regulation on
regulation,
stuff like that.
something.
Right, because he said school shootings and things like that.
No.
Yeah.
Westbound 6440 is jammed, and this is Kings Highway. It's in pockets. But it goes all the way out through Lake St. Louis Boulevard. There was an incident out there. 70 is slowing at Jennings Station Road past the airport. But eastbound jams just past 141, a report of an incident there. Then some moderate volume westbound out through Wentzville. Now southbound 270, slow pockets Olive, down through an accident that's just almost right at 21. 55 southbound slowing at Bates. 44 slowing in front of the Arch grounds. But we look great if you're headed into Illinois. Downtown on the bridges. I'm Sue Thomas, and that's traffic. 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
Let's talk about Morelli Tuck Pointing, because they're a great company here in St. Louis that's been very successful for several decades, and they can help you with something that you're probably not going to be too crazy about doing and you can't do on your own. That's one thing. You don't want to tuck point on your own, but they're the expert in masonry services here in St. Louis. Family-owned and operated, decades of experience, top-notch skills, and estimates are free as well. They have what I like to call the little swipey thing on their website. So if you go to MorelliTuckPointing.com, you can, for example, see a chimney where the bricks are literally falling off it. Hopefully it doesn't look like your home right now, but then you swipe a little bit and you see what Morelli does to it. They clean it up. They do the tuck pointing. They make it look fantastic. They have outstanding reviews. So if you're interested in tuck pointing, spot pointing with color match, chimney repair, brickwork, stone foundation repair, waterproofing, caulking, they do it all, residential and commercial, since 1991 here in St. Louis. Morelli Tuck Pointing, MorelliTuckPointing.com, or call 645-1387.
Guns N' Roses is coming to St. Louis. We have your chance to go. Listen to the Mark Cox Morning Show all this week for your chance to see them August 16th, 2026 at Busch Stadium. It's the Guns N' Roses World Tour giveaway on the Mark Cox Morning Show.
The ACA Marketplace has announced significant increases on their monthly premiums for 2026, with deductibles over $10,000. You can enroll with Greg Hammond's Freedom of Choice plans now. You don't have to wait. One of their plans lets you use any doctor, has zero outpatient deductibles, and it's 30 to 60% lower costs than most Obamacare plans. Other options are full coverage PPOs with national networks, copays, and 100% annual preventative care. Also, there's no income disclosure required, so no potential tax penalties. If you pay for your own health insurance, you're uninsured, you're on COBRA, or your employer coverage is just too expensive, call Greg and they'll provide all available options. Call 314-794-7784. That's 314-794-7784. Or go to GregHammonds.com. That's GregHammonds.com. He can custom design a plan managed and chosen by you, not the government.
Overhead Door Company of St. Louis is hiring residential garage door technicians and installers. Join the team trusted here since 1926. Apply today, get a call today. No experience necessary. We will train motivated applicants to repair and install garage doors. Mechanical, carpentry, and service industry experience is a plus. Hiring bonus up to $4,000. Benefits include health, dental, vision, and pension. Earn as you learn to service the best garage door customers in St. Louis. Apply today at OverheadDoorSt.Louis.com.
Hey, with cooler weather moving in, don't put yourself at risk for a power outage. Get a free estimate on a Generac home standby generator from Generator Supercenter, the nation's #1 Generac generator dealer. This is all about giving yourself peace of mind by calling now for a free estimate. You won't have to worry about waiting on hold with the power company. No more worrying about your home when you're away. Get a free estimate on a generator from Generator Supercenter of St. Louis. Financing is available. 314-499-2020. Generator Supercenter of St. Louis.com.
Sponsored by Progressive. We make the claims process easy so you can get back on the road in no time. It's why over 43 million drivers trust Progressive. See for yourself at Progressive.com.
You're listening to The Mark Reardon Show on 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
Oh, I always love the little gap of dead air there with the music. That's one of my favorite pieces of the production on my show right now. Sorry, did I just say that out loud?
Yeah, you
I'm just
did.
going to tell you right now that I had a listener who is a friend who told me to chill out today, and I just texted him and I said, hey, my own shrink told me to chill out today too. He's a little worried about my anger level right now. I saw my shrink. I had an appointment. He goes, and I said, really? He said, yes. So I have to take his advice.
That's probably a good
a little
idea.
amped up.
Yeah, it's all right.
That happens. But let's do this here.
Stand by. Playback ready.
Now, the audio cut of the day.
I should have used this yesterday because it happened yesterday, but there's people in the Trump administration that I have questions about. Kash Patel. I mean, I think there's a bit of a clown show going on there, right? I want things to go well in the FBI. But some of the other, Marco Rubio, outstanding. Scott Bessent, he is great as Treasury Secretary. So he's sitting down with the New York Times at an event that they're hosting, Andrew Ross Sorkin, and he says this.
The question is this like a new is this a new normal?
That Andrew, there's no new normal, and I can tell you that I actually don't read the New York Times anymore. That sometimes I do watch CNBC, but occasionally people send me articles, and there's just this fever swamp, and you're now a pop historian with 1929. And, in 20, 30, 40, 50 years, the New York Times is no longer the paper of record. You can't go, I read this article, President Trump is slowing down, President Trump's mental capacity. It is 100% fake. That, he only called me twice at 2 a.m. last week instead of 3 times.
You're saying he called you? I believe that he called you at 2 or 3 in the morning.
See, this is a good point, though, because this is what they do. They're questioning Trump's health. I heard CNN do a pitch, Aaron Burnett, when I drove home 2 nights ago. Whoa, more questions about Trump's health. These are people that never raised one question, not one question about Joe Biden.
You had what was one of the greatest scandals of all time, that the coverage of the Biden administration, Joe Biden's diminished capacity, and the cover-up.
And that's why it's probably fair to raise these questions.
Where was the New York Times? We just had a 3-hour cabinet meeting yesterday, Andrew.
Yeah, exactly.
For 10 months,
Yes.
the Biden administration did not have a cabinet meeting. How are you going to invoke the 25th Amendment if the cabinet secretaries never see the president, which they didn't? That I hear from people in the Treasury building that I see President Trump more in a day than my predecessor saw Joe Biden in half a year.
Mic drop.
Yep.
I mean, that is indisputable.
Yes.
I mean, we watched the cabinet meeting, right? And then, Trump dozed off. I don't know if he dozed off or not, but he's doing this 18 hours a day, and he's calling people in the middle of the night. So, again, I've said this, no matter what you think about the guy, and I know a lot of people hate him, that the way that the media treats this is so embarrassing. And they just never learn. They never, ever learn. They fall for everything.
Well, they don't care, Mark.
Well, that's a good point. It does give me a lot of ammunition, a lot of show topics, though.
Yeah, it does.
And a lot of great topics for the Reardon Roundtable, which will kick off at 3 tomorrow. We'll see you then.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
Well, there was an accident on northbound 270 at Olive. They've moved it as far off to the right as they can. Still some slow-moving traffic through there. It goes back through Manchester. 70 westbound, looking better, but still some moderate volume at Jennings Station Road. Eastbound is jammed at 270. And westbound slow, a little bit at K and in pockets out through Wentzville. It's moderate volume on westbound 6440 Kings Highway through the inner belt, and then slow pockets west of 94 out through 70. We've got eastbound 40 slowing at 170, but it looks great if you're headed into Illinois. And southbound 270 slowing at 21. There was an earlier accident there. I'm Sue Thomas, and that's traffic on 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
All right, guys, I want to talk about Game Day Men's Health, and Matt Lawrence has an outstanding facility out in Chesterfield, right off of Clarkson and Olive in 6440. Game Day Men's Health, GameDayMen'sHealth.com. And if you have never been to game day or even, a clinic like it, this is a great way to start because they're going to offer you a free testosterone and PSA test. And it's a 1-hour visit. And in that 1 hour, you can get tests, results, and a full consultation. So you won't have to block off an entire half day for work or something like that. They don't cut any corners. They have an in-house state-of-the-art lab, very efficient processes. Matt has great staff members, and a full consultation with a board-certified men's health professional comes right after the test results. They'll stick to that 1 hour time. They're very proud of that. They pride themselves on it. They also have their own pharmacy now, which allows them to offer safe and effective medicine from their own FDA-certified pharmacy. Low prices, treatment plans are developed and supervised by medical professionals. You get great treatment at Game Day Men's Health. Check them out. They're in Chesterfield, as I indicated. Also, Glen Carbon, Illinois, and O'Fallon, Missouri. The website, GameDayMen'sHealth.com. Guys, get back to the top of your game today with Game Day Men's Health.
When you're approaching retirement, there are a lot of questions to answer. Do you have enough money to fund your income for life? How should you claim Social Security? And what's your plan for health care and long-term care?